You're listening to the Gettin' Salty Experience podcast.
Away we go! 100th episode. I think I'm done. I lost my voice. Holy crap!
Ooh.
Give me the end of the show. Holy crap! Man.
Got dressed up, though. We got dressed up for it.
Well, two of us did anyway. Two of us got dressed up. Welcome back to the 100th. 100. Who'd have thought? 100 episodes from these three assholes. 100 episodes. Welcome back. The Gettin' Salty Experience, the only one in the whole wide world that brings the Firehouse kitchen table right to you. We got another big hitter tonight. Self-proclaimed, maybe the biggest one.
Big.
He's got a slugging percentage. Oh. He's the GOAT. He is the GOAT. Big batter. Big slugging on base percentage.
Big hitter, the Llama.
We got a
big hitter. So I says to the Llama, how about a little something, for the effort?
For the effort. I'm not going to give you money, but on your deathbed, you will receive total consciousness. So
I got that going for me.
I got that going for me.
So I got that going for me.
Yeah.
How'd you sleep?
Oh, wait. That's not what I wanted to hear. Oh, my God.
Taking the glass.
How did I sleep last night?
Yeah.
Me? Good. Why?
Knowing your quarter ginzo.
with that. My Italian temper came out today. I can tell you that much.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Would you give a couple slaps?
I had to let it go. My brand new.
Did you go over there and talk to him?
Made him an offer he couldn't
my
refuse?
Brand new Denali Yukon XL. I'm driving it. All of a sudden, it looked like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. It was like, I'm like, what the hell is going on, bro? I run right to the gas station on the corner from my house. I pull in the guy. He goes, whoa, shut that off. Shut it off. He goes, let me check the oil. Checks the oil. He goes, wow, the oil's fine. Turn it on again. He goes, shut it off. Engine done. You need a new engine. I'm like,
what?
Engine? It's 3 months old. It's 2022. How could I?
Must be nice to have money.
Yeah.
Oh.
I go home and I try to call the dealer, and I got 5 dealers that told me, nah, you can't bring it in. We're just too booked up. I'm like, what do you mean you're just too booked up? You're too booked up? What the hell is that?
My car doesn't work. What are you talking about?
When the Ginzo come out.
Oh, yeah, the Ginzo come out. I go to the guy. I go, well,
nice.
What the fuck how am I supposed to get around? Am I fucking skateboard, dude?
Easy. We have a superstar coming on in 3 minutes. Easy.
How am I going to get around?
But you can't. Listen, I get the Italians coming up, but don't
I gave him?
Don't be spurts the guest.
I gave them a Maloika.
Maloika. That's what you do when you're Italian. You say, you know what? That's what happens to you now.
Yeah,
that's what you're going to get.
What happened to you?
You give him the eye.
I gave him the eye.
Did you hang up on him like
you dick? No. And then I happened to call one guy, and he's like, "Wow, I'm really sorry you're going through this. It's only 3 months old." He goes, "Call the roadside assistance, tow it in, and I'll take a look at it. If not this week, maybe Monday." I'm like, "Really?
Wow."
Maybe they called and they said this angry Italian guy is going to call you next, and you better take this guy's car in, otherwise.
Now you know why I'm always angry.
Yeah,
it's just in the blood. It's in the blood.
All right,
now you got it. You know.
But a guy came, they towed it. It's at the shop.
All right.
By the way, so I don't know what we're gonna do for a car. We go to Syracuse. So. Yeah.
Ouch.
But my wife, I'm going to use her Wagoneer, and I just strapped on the hitch, so we'll be good. So you're thinking out of the box. So that's why I'm only part Italian.
That thing will pull the...
I'm a part Italian. I can think.
The German side kicked in.
The German side went, how do we solve this problem?
Oh, my God.
That's what we did. So...
All right. Well, you know what? Listen, let's not fool around too much longer. We have somebody way more important than us.
We do.
And he's sitting in the back. 2 people, actually. 2 special guests tonight.
Lou, thanks for dressing up tonight. I appreciate it.
Oh, listen, only the best for the
Yeah. All right, Pete, do what you got to do. Do your thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, you guys know that we only seek out the best sponsors in the game. And tonight, as always, we are sponsored by New Jersey Fire Equipment Company. Established in 1930 and under the current ownership since 1987, the New Jersey Fire Equipment Company handles a complete line of fire department equipment and supplies. Headquartered in Greenbrook, the company operates full 3M Scott service facilities in Ridgefield Park and Toms River, staffed by 10 fully authorized Scott certified technicians with a fleet of 6 fully equipped service vans. All New Jersey fire technicians and sales representatives are active or retired firefighters, officers or chief officers, career and volunteer. They understand the business and the importance of their work. New Jersey Fire has represented Scott since Earl Scott entered the SCBA business at the end of World War II. Among other leading manufacturers represented by New Jersey Fire are Globe and Firedex Turnout Gear, Mercedes Hose, Task Force Tips and Akron Brass, Hygenol, Fire Hooks, Arctic Compressors, MSA Carnes Helmets, ChemGuard Foam, Alkalite and Duo Safety Ladders, BA Face Shield Protectors, Truckman's Choice Saws, Grove's Gear Racks and Washer Dryers, Supervac Fans, RPI, Streamlight, and many others. A New Jersey incorporated and based company, sales and service are limited to the state of New Jersey. Find us now at www.njfe.com. That's www.njfe.com.
Great job.
Okay, and really quickly before we move on to what will be one of the best shows we've done, guys, GettinSaltyApparel.com, where you will find one of these types of t-shirts. That's right, our t-shirts, the t-shirts, hoodies, hats, pint glasses, shot glasses, all the firefighter and apparel and accessories in the game that you could possibly want.
Golf tees.
Golf tees at GettinSaltyApparel.com, guys. That's how we support ourselves around here. So if you want to support us and support the show, get a and you ask why, because that's what men do t-shirt, or maybe follow the smoke t-shirt, or maybe a golf tee. I don't know what you're into, but for sure you will find something there. Also, guys, in the super chat, there's already super chatters hitting us up. Thank you guys so much, Darren and Chris. Guys, if you want to throw a couple of shekels at us or 1 shekel, it doesn't matter. You guys are our number one sponsors. We take all of your donations if that's what you choose to do. You don't have to, but if you do, thank you. And also, guys, if you have a question you have to absolutely positively ask the chief, shoot it to us in the super chat. All right, there it is. Boom.
Maybe the chief for like a few tees. He's probably playing golf now since he's retired.
Oh, we're gonna hook the chief.
Well, we can't send him the Brooklyn one because we gave that to him like 2 times in a row now.
I see him backstage and he's like,
yeah,
he's like this.
Let's get him in.
Let's get him in. Let's get him in.
But not only an impressive resume, bro, but to the end, he went no more. To the end, no more. He went to the top. Went to the tippy top. But not only did he go to the tippy top on politics, this guy worked in the busiest places, bro. Captain, lieutenant, fireman, rescue 2, charter member, squad 280, squad 270. Sorry.
And you may remember the chief from our rock series that we did. So he was our special guest at the end of that 4-part series. So
we were hugging and kissing him. You mean like that?
Because they're all kind of really close with the FDNY chief of department. I don't know if you ever heard of it. Small
I like to drop his name here and there. Tommy, good friend. Yep. All right. I don't really call him Tommy ever. I'm going to call him chief of department. Here
chief
he
of
is,
department.
The chief. Tommy Richardson, come on. Oh,
hey, Chief. Welcome.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Our pleasure, Chief. It is our pleasure.
I miss you guys. I miss you guys.
Drinks are on the house.
Drinks are on the house tonight.
Like a bad rash.
Yeah. I like your style about some golf shirts.
I'll hook you up. I got you, Chief. I got
golf
you.
shirts. We got to stop making the golf shirts.
Chief, whatever you want. No problem.
The chief of department to the golf shirts. He gets golf shirts.
Today.
Like, I'll run out and print them up right now. I don't know.
Let's go. I'm ready.
Oh, he's already. We don't have a word of the day.
Oh, you know what? We don't have
a
word of the day.
That's right. He's retired. That's
we
what
didn't
happens.
come up with a word of the day.
That's right. That's the one thing we.
You know what? I'm gonna get shit faced. We're just gonna say the word of the day is chief. How you like that?
No. Yes. I'll say it, but I'm not hitting that bell. Every 10th chief. Chief. Right. The word of the day is chief. Oh my God, we're all dead. We're all dead. Chief, listen.
Wow.
I'm not hitting that button more than 3 times this show, Chief.
You're not.
No, I am not. Out of respect for the chief of department.
I'm a little nervous tonight.
You don't look it. You want to change that to the goat? Because we do have the goat over here, bro. There he is.
All right, we could change it out to the goat. Let's do that.
You know what the goat is, right, Chief? The goat?
I got it, but I'm not. I don't think I am. But
the greatest.
All right, the GOAT. There it is. The GOAT.
We'll get into it in a little while. We'll get into it.
But first,
you know what?
Pete?
Before we get into it, we got to get patriotic before Susie loses her panties and her bloomers. Her bloomers are all getting tight in there. She keeps yelling, "Pledge, pledge, pledge." We got a special
pledge.
We got better than a pledge for Susie tonight. We hired. We didn't hire.
Hey, wait a minute. We got to break our money?
Yeah, no.
Hey, you know how I am about paying the bill.
MJ's like this. What? Wait, what?
Did somebody say money?
What?
We're gonna. We pay with.
Hold on a second. Kev's breaking up again. Kev's breaking up.
We pay with Chief Fire Department swag. All right, we use swag.
That's right.
MJ is gonna get some swag. So let's bring MJ in here, bro. You might know her from winning the contest. There's Smiley. Love her.
There she is. What's up, MJ?
Hello.
Hello, young lady. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Are you ready? Have you been limbering up? Have you,
I am ready.
You ready
You're
to
not
go?
nervous, are you?
A little bit.
Oh, come on.
No. First of all, wait. Before we get into it, really quick, MJ, where are you from?
Baldwin, New York.
Baldwin, New York. Okay. All right. So you're a New Yorker.
Firefighter.
Volunteer firefighter. How long
Yes.
you been on the GAO Bizzle?
18 years.
Whoa.
Hey.
All right. Volunteer firefighter on
over
for
there,
18
Paulie?
years.
What'd you get? No, Hosh is in
Who's over there in
Freeport.
Baldwin? Somebody's in Baldwin.
Bill Hill.
Yes. I know, Bill.
Bill Hill.
Come on now. We don't like a Bill Hill.
Yeah.
Come on.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you guys know the deal.
What'd you start volume when you were 4?
Yeah. Young MJ. All right.
Do you need a warm up? Do you need anything?
No, I'm good.
All
You're
right.
just ready to go like that. That's it.
I'm
Wow.
good.
All right. Give me the goosebumps. Give me the goosebumps.
All right, stand by, everybody. We're gonna give her due here. We're gonna go into our. We're gonna move into our single shot on MJ, ladies and gentlemen, and take it away, MJ.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Wow! That was even better than the video she sent for the Salties, man.
Knock that out of the
You know how hard it is to sing that?
Yeah.
Oh my
Dude,
God!
I got goosebumps, man.
I
got
I
goosebumps.
was starting chanting USA, USA. That's all I was doing.
My flag almost lit on fire. I got all kinds of. Wow! George Washington in the picture came alive. Wow!
We brought her on just for you, Chief.
Dude, that's
on
a
this
great
episode.
I hope I get to
Amazing.
meet you, MJ.
What's that?
I hope I get to meet you. You're going to be at the state chiefs?
I will not be.
Are you
All
going
right.
to be
Well,
at the
we'll
State
meet.
Chiefs?
Someday we'll meet.
Chief,
I'm
you're going to be
sure.
there at State Chiefs?
I am.
Oh, we're taking you
All
out
right.
to dinner, fella.
I'll
Well,
be there, brother.
If
We'll be
anyone
there.
wants to hire MJ Stuparic here, or Stuparic, as she corrected me as a fellow Croatian, you can go ahead and email her at mjstup@gmail.com.
Oh, MJ, thank you so
Dude,
much.
that
We'll
was
be
a
talking.
great-
We're going to
Thank
have
you,
you on
MJ.
again for the Salties. We're going to use you a lot.
Great job.
I'm here for you guys.
And the
Thank
smile,
you.
the smile.
Yeah, she's got a great smile.
bless
Look at
her.
her, man.
Watch
It's
this.
amazing.
Watch the guinea come out. Molto bene. Beautiful.
Thank you, MJ. We appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Awesome.
See you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Pete, she is the GOAT of the national anthem. Oh!
All right. That's the end of it. That is the end of it.
Thank you, MJ.
All right, MJ.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.
I'll call you tomorrow.
Take care.
All right.
Oh, man, she was amazing.
Great job.
All right. Now,
That's just the
unbelievable.
beginning. Let's start breaking down this career right here. We might have to do 2 parts here with this fella.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Whoa.
He's not into it. He's not into it.
Come on.
He's not into it.
We're going to see him up at Chiefs. We're taking him to Fogo de Chao when we go up there.
Over the chow. Whoa,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
All you can eat, baby.
Louis sweating right now. What? We're taking who out? What?
Listen, I'm the chief, so I got.
I don't crap. I don't crap.
You don't crap up.
Just tell your wife what we tell our wives. We're going to Nathan's or Burger King. That's it. All right, let's go way back first, Chief. Let's get a little background of where you're from, where'd you grow up, and what brought you to the fire department.
So, I was born in Brooklyn, October 9th, 1959. Both of my parents were from Brooklyn. My dad was from Flatbush. My mom was from downtown Brooklyn. They met, I guess, when my dad got out of the Marine Corps in 1954.
Hoorah.
They were married in 56. I was the firstborn of 5. When I was 3 years old, 1962, my parents built a brand new house out here in Deer Park, Long Island. So I moved here when I was 3, and I've been here ever since. I live on the opposite side of town where I grew up. But my dad joined the volunteer fire department 1968. I was like 9 years old. So what got him to join the volleys, there was an ambulance call on my block, older gentleman on the block. He winds up dying of a heart attack. And back in those days, it was all volunteers, and they didn't get out quickly at the time, and the guy died. So my dad said, you know what, I want to get involved. So he was a Marine, tough guy, Korean War.
Get
and
involved.
He joined the volleys.
That's it. Get involved.
He joined the volleys. I was 9 years old. And, I didn't really pay attention. I was 9, but then he really got into it, man. He was all in, like all in.
Really?
He was like Firefighter of the Year.
Wow.
He was all, he loved it, man. He loved it. So when I was in high school, my early years in high school, I would go to the firehouse. My younger brother would actually go with him all the time. He would take the runs in with him because my dad had a Chiefs car when he was one of the Chiefs and all of that. My younger brother would jump in the car with him all the time. I didn't really have an interest. I was playing baseball in high school and like whatever. I didn't really have an interest.
The girls.
Yeah, whatever. Right? I don't know about the girls, but I started going down when I was probably around 15, and I saw how much he loved it. Back in those days, it was a different time. With the old timers, all World War II, Korean War, a lot of Vietnam guys down there at the time. Those guys used to hang out till the wee hours of the morning, and I remember often my mom kind of having a few words with my father when he rolled in about 5 in the morning, and then he had to go to work. My father worked for Con Edison. He was a lineman. So anyway, he got me to come down a little bit, and when I was in high school, he introduces me to a guy. So he said, I want you to meet this guy. So I'm like, I don't know who this guy is, right? So the guy was John T. Vigiano.
Oh,
way.
John T. Vigiano.
That's a guy. That's the guy.
John T. Vigiano joined the volleys in like 1976-ish. So I was a junior in high school. He joined because he had become an EMT. Back in those days in the 70s, a lot of guys on the job went and got their EMT. The city provided an EMT course, and a lot of guys went and got their EMT because we were going to medical course. People would pull the box, and you would show up, and people were stabbed or hurt or whatever or sick. So John wanted to learn more about being an EMT, so he joined the volleys to ride the ambulance. So of course he becomes a firefighter as well, and him and my dad hit it off because they were both Marines.
I didn't know that.
Then there was another guy who was from 82 Engine, this guy Larry Canillo. Larry was a volley. He joined the volleys too. Him and John Vigiano were very good friends. They joined together. So Larry was also a Marine. So they joined, and I didn't get involved. My dad was like into the training, so he started using them for training. So I meet the Vig, and you know how the Vig was. He was the same back then as he was. So, son, what do you want to do with your life? That kind of So he says, would you like to come to work with me? And I'm like, he was a lieutenant Rescue 2 at the time. Poof. So I went to work with him a couple of times. That's
wow.
Jack Kleehouse was his chauffeur. Wow. He worked with Lee Yelpy, Al Steinhardt. Geez, back then, I can't remember all the names, but I went to work with him a couple of times. Now, on my block, right across the street from me where I grew up, was a guy named Pete Iovino. Pete was on a job. He was a firefighter in 236 Engine.
Nice.
And so my father and him were friends. He had 4 sons. And my neighbor to the Exposure 2 side was a retired firefighter out of 236. His name was Dave O'Neill. He was an old timer. So, I was surrounded by these guys. So I went to work with Pete Iovino a bunch of times also when he was in 236. And back in those days,
great place, man.
236 was rock and roll. New York was cranking, you know what I mean? So, I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. So that's how I got introduced to the job, right? And then I was in high school. I was graduating high school. I graduated in June of 77. There was a firefighter exam in December 77. So I turned 18 in October. I took the test, and I did pretty good. I joined the volleys right after that in January of 78. And then my list number was pretty good. I think my list number was like 971 on the list.
And that was the hard test, right? That was the wall.
Yeah, that was the wall hang.
Yeah.
You had to go across the wall on a ledge.
Yep.
You had to do an obstacle course. You had to run a mile.
That was a hard test, man.
Yeah, it was tough. So I was a skinny little kid back then, you know what I mean? So I was in pretty good shape, and I do pretty good. I get on a list and whatever. Now I'm like, I got to wait because you got to be 21 to get on a job. So I was working in a hospital, Smithtown General Hospital. I was a custodian. I went to college a little bit, but not really seriously. I met my wife when I was like 19. So I met my wife before I got on the job. My wife's a few years older than me.
Cougar.
Wow. Yeah, cougar. Right, I got to go close to the room so I could say that.
Good man.
So I'm just waiting to get hired. There was a period of time, November 1979 to November 1980, they didn't hire anybody. That was when
the women filed
the lawsuit, right? So they start hiring. My class was the first class. We got hired November 1980. I turned 21 in October.
Wow.
So I got my letter like 3 weeks after.
Oh my good, perfect timing.
So I go into Proby school. There's 100 guys in the class. All of us, 77 out of 100 of us were 21.
Really?
So I go into Proby school. My official date of appointment is November 22nd, 1980. I graduate Proby school in January. When we got out of Proby school, they gave us our assignments. I get assigned to 227 Engine in Brooklyn. I don't know anything about Brooklyn. I'm a kid. I grew up on Long Island. My father worked for Con Ed, like I said, and he was in the emergency service, the emergency trucks, the red trucks.
Oh, the red trucks?
Right.
Yeah,
so he was everywhere.
He was all over the place.
Right.
So he tells me, where'd you get assigned? I said, 227. So he says, where's that? I says, I don't know, Ralph Avenue and Bergen Street. He goes, oh, my God, he says to me. Oh, my God.
Wait a minute. I got to call timeout.
Go ahead.
You didn't make any calls to get to 227. You just went to 227.
All right, so here's the story.
I told you.
Here's the story. So once again, Vigiano is my guy.
I
So Vigiano, I found this out after the fact. Originally, he was going to send me to 234. Now, back then, 234 was killing it. They were getting all the first two work down in their neighborhood.
That wasn't in the new firehouse. The firehouse they're in now.
No, it was in the firehouse on St. John's.
Yeah. Oh,
They went there in 1977.
Oh, okay.
That's when 234 and 123 went together with the 38. So John says the captain of 227 at the time was this guy, Eddie Higgins.
Yeah, we talk about the captain all the time.
Yep.
The man. He's the guy. Yeah.
He was the man, bro.
Yeah.
So Vigiano decided, I'm sending you to 227. Eddie Higgins is the guy. Like, you got to, that's who's going to teach you the job. Be a firefighter, right?
And here you were on that fateful day when you were sworn in, right?
Wait a minute.
Where are you?
Why are you?
I don't see the picture. It's
you don't?
up. No, I don't see it.
It is up. That's interesting.
You guys see it? I don't see it.
Huh.
But anyway, I got a light suit on with a vest. I'm about
he's like the fourth guy from the left,
Yes.
Kev.
Oh, that's him. Like looking at the camera, Coob. That's him.
And you know who's standing right next to me? Standing right next to me is Steve Garrity.
Yeah, that's Garrity.
Oh,
Oh my God, that's him. Yes.
Steve Garrity, God bless him, man. He's going.
He's
through
to
a
the
tough
right.
time
He's
right now.
the chief is to the right. He's to the right of Chief.
Yeah, he's to the right of me, right?
Yes.
So that was
Oh
the
my
day,
God.
man. So
You look like
the
John
day I got
Travolta.
sworn in,
Bro.
we got sworn in at the Rock.
Holy mac, you look like John Travolta.
Yeah, handsome devil. Look at that.
Oh,
Handsome.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh,
You were a
Oh,
skinny. You were
there's
a
no
skinny
doubt why
boy.
that cougar came looking for you, bro. Right there, man.
Oh,
Holy
yeah.
shit.
She was digging me, man, for sure.
Oh, no doubt. What's not to dig?
So the day I got sworn in, there I am. The day I got sworn in, my mother was there and my girlfriend, who's soon to be my wife. My father didn't come. I'm like, how come you're not coming? He says, I got to go to work. He was like, all work, no play guy. He went to work.
That's crazy, right? If you
My
think about that,
mother and my wife, my girlfriend were there. So that was cool. So Francis Carruthers, the senior Francis Carruthers, was chief of department, and Augustus Beekman was the commissioner.
Gus Beekman, good guy, man. My dad
Gus
drove him for a little while. Yeah.
Gus Beekman, yep. And so, I go to probate school and I get assigned to 227. And, back in those days, 227, that area of Brooklyn, that Brownsville, East New York, it was just a ton of vacant buildings. It was terrible. It was so sad, it really was. So, I was a smart ass kid too. Like, I remember being on the roof of the firehouse one day and one of the senior guys, my senior guy that I got assigned to, his name was Tom Laudicina. They called him Mad Dog. He's since passed.
That
Oh,
can't be
boy.
good.
He was the man. He had the biggest fingers. He had these club fingers. So if he pointed you in the chest, he almost knocked you down.
Sausages. He had sausages in his
yeah.
hand.
So anyway, we're on the roof of the firehouse one day, and he's telling me about all the fires that they went to in the last 10 years. Fires everywhere. And I look at him around, and I'm like, you guys did a shitty job, bro. There's nothing left.
Good stop.
So of course, I'm just a snot-nosed kid from Long Island,
Yeah.
But I learned a lot. I worked with some great people there, and here's a good picture. That's a great picture. So the guy's kneeling down. The guy with the guy in the turnout coat is Frank Lito. Frank Lito was the director of the counseling unit most recently when he retired.
Yeah.
Frankie came a couple of years after me. The guy next to him was Jerry Dombrowski. Jerry was involved in a really serious incident in August 1980. Frank Tuttlemundo, chief of the 4-4 Battalion, was killed in a collapse on Osborne Street. 227 engine was in the building with a line. It was vacant. Fire was mostly out. They were in there washing down, and the chief went in to get them out, and the building came down. So Jerry was outside the building, like on the sidewalk. He gets hit with the drum from the roll-down gate almost tears his arm off. I think it was his left arm. They said his arm was hanging by skin.
Oh my God.
So he was out. I wasn't in the company then. I wasn't even on the job. That was August of 1980. So Jerry eventually comes back to work like a year and a half later.
Oh my God.
No
that's
way.
Incredible.
Comes back to work and gets promoted to lieutenant, gets promoted to captain. He retired as the captain in 175.
Wow.
And his arm was all functional.
Well,
they put it back together, man.
His nickname was Steve Austin.
Yeah,
I think.
Speaking of people with like hitched up appendages, Johnny Walters is in the chat, and he's asking if Lee Ielpi was there with you. Hold on, sorry, that's for Johnny Walters.
Nice. Hello, John.
Yeah, he's just asking if Ielpi was there with you, or was
Ielpi wasn't there then. Ielpi was already in rescue.
Gotcha.
He was in rescue, but I worked with Lee when I went to rescue a few years later.
Gotcha.
So, but he was a 227 man. Yep. Good man.
Kevin Shea wasn't there either.
We're this close to getting Ielpi. This close.
He's the man, bro.
Push him over.
What a guy.
And Johnny Walters said, "Always a pleasure, Chief."
What was it like working with that captain, with Captain Higgins?
Oh man. So Eddie Higgins, he was an old school guy, right? He started in 58 engine, I believe, in Harlem in like 1957.
Wow.
So, back in those days, I guess Harlem wasn't as busy, right? It was the 50s, like it was whatever.
Right. Mm-hmm.
He winds up transferring in the 60s. He goes to 283 as a firefighter. And, they were killing it back then in the 60s, right? They had the Squad 4 in quarters with them.
Right, yep.
He gets promoted to lieutenant at a 283, winds up becoming a lieutenant in 227.
Right.
Gets promoted to captain and comes back.
Goes back, right. I remember,
well, he was the quintessential engine officer. Like, bro, that guy was all engine all the time. And you better do your job. If you had the door or you had control, because we had 5 firefighters back then, you better be in position. But he was probably one of the calmest people I ever worked with on the fire floor. So I started on night tours. My first night was pretty quiet. My first night, actually, my first run on the job, 10 after 6 on my first tour, first night tour. Fill out 1075, box 1677, Eastern Parkway and Atlantic Avenue. So we're the third engine. I get on the rig. I'm a nervous wreck, right? We didn't do anything. It turned out to be a small fire. That was my first run. So we had a couple more runs. The next night, my second night, we catch a job right down on Ralph Avenue between St. Mark's and I guess, so we got Bergen, St. Mark's, whatever the next block is. So it's a vacant 3-story walk up. It was a store on the first floor at one time, but it's vacant and it's going in the back, couple of rooms. I had the backup. So I remember Eddie Higgins, when I first got there, he says, Tommy, he said, listen, don't put your mask on unless you really need it. Because we all got trained. We had the mask on our back. But he says, don't put your mask on unless you really need it. All right, Cap, So we go in the building. I'm backing up this guy, Jerry Dalton. Jerry had about 10 years in the job. A couple of rooms in the back, and we get in the back, and he says, Jerry, let the kid have the nozzle. It's only a couple of rooms. Give me the nozzle. So Jerry hands me the nozzle. So I go in there, knocking down the fire. I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe this, right? So we think we do a good job. We get relieved at some point. We come out of the building, and the whole building is on fire. And the 2 explosions. It was like a third alarm.
The wrong thing.
You did the wrong thing, Chief. What happened?
So we come out, we go back. So I go back to quarters, and I'm like, I think I got burned. We didn't have hoods, right?
Right.
I feel like I got burnt on my neck or so I open up, I'm in the bathroom, and I got like a silver dollar size burn right on my neck, right here, in the front of my neck. Huh. But I'm not saying nothing, man.
Throw some silver dye on it. You'll be all right. Don't worry.
I cover it up and everything and go back to work. I go home the next morning, and my father says, how was your tour? So, oh, man, I had my first fire. So I had it bandaged up, and I just covered it. But my father must have saw some of the bandage. So what happened? I said, I got burned a little bit. He says, let me see that. So it was a pretty good burn, So he says, holy shit. He goes and tells my neighbor across the street. The neighbor comes over, Pete, and he says, you got to go sick. I said, I can't go sick. I'm a Probian. My first fire. So I didn't go sick. So
nice.
Well, working with Captain Higgins was the honor of a lifetime, man. That guy was he was like working with your father, man. He really was. We were all young guys.
Yeah, you just want to make him proud, right? You just want to do the right thing all the time.
Man.
Right?
He was just the best. What a great guy. And he of course his heart was broken when his son was killed on 9/11. And I was actually there on 9/11 the day we found Timmy. And I called his two brothers, they had just left. They came back. But the dad always reminded, every time I saw him, I'll never forget what you did for my boys. You didn't move Timmy until they came back.
Wow.
And he always remembered that. But I learned so much just working for that guy, just how to be calm on the fire floor, to make sure everybody's doing their job, be in position. Great man. Just
Do
a
you think
wonderful.
that every firefighter should start out in the engine before they go to a truck? Or
I have always believed that, personally. I've always felt that guys should all go to engine companies. And I know it's difficult, when we're short-staffed in the trucks. But I always felt that starting off in the engine is a good way to learn the teamwork, right? To really learn about putting a fire out, right? You're actually, listen, the two best positions in this job are nozzle and engine officer. And engine officer in a single engine, even better.
yeah.
Chief, I just wanted to read you something very quickly. Today I posted a little bit about the show tonight on the Salty Fans page on Facebook, and Joseph Higgins wrote, regarding you, my father's Proby. He worked with my brother Tim in R2 and was present when we recovered him. Simply the best. So they remember you in that family, sir.
Yeah, Joey, and the brother Mike and the brother Rob. Bob was in 290. Just a great family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen,
we had Joe on the show. He was incredible.
Oh yeah,
that's how I learned so much about his family and his father. I mean, it was incredible.
To this day, if you ask my wife what was her favorite fire company since I was on, she'll always tell you 227.
Really?
Not even a hesitation. That was my first company. But there we go. So there's Jerry again, Jerry Quinn, and Kevin McCabe is the guy on the end, and then Lieutenant Ronnie Meehan. He was a good man too. Yep. Yeah, that was cool.
Is that you in the middle?
That's me in the middle, baby.
Oh
Look
my
how
Look at that guy. Holy shit.
Holy shit is right.
That was about 50 pounds ago.
What? Where were you guys? What were you smoking? You were smoking.
That was the back of the firehouse, actually, the back of the apparatus floor.
Nice.
Yep.
Real nice.
Chief, in that firehouse, they have a bay that says storehouse. What was that in there?
So back in the day, that was where they kept the hay for the horses.
Get out of here.
I swear to God. Yeah, back in the day. And then over time, they used it for storage, but then today they use it as a parking garage.
I was going to say, they probably use it to fix their cars or whatever.
Yeah, they probably park 3 or 4 cars in there now.
That's pretty cool.
I loved my time there, man. And my wife will tell you that because when we went to the company party for the first time, the captain and his wife, she was the sweetest lady ever. They came around to every couple and introduced themselves, like they were our parents,
Yeah.
They were just the nicest people, the nicest family. And he was just a tough firefighter, man.
And you guys were so young. I mean, if you think about, like you said, when you got on, you were in your both of you guys were in your low 20s. So
the whole company was young, man. Or the whole company came on the job, for the most part, from 1977 through 1984. The company was just all young people.
So you guys must have been so close with each other, right? I mean,
it was great, man. It was a great place to learn the job, to learn about the culture of the fire department. All the things we did together. It was just a great, wonderful bunch of guys. We had a lot of fun. In fact, we were all looking for houses at the time, right? I wind up buying a house at Deer Park, but we took a couple of trips, a bunch of us out east, all looking together to see if we could buy a house together.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
cool.
but guys moved all over the place. We didn't really stay in the same area, but that was a great experience, man.
I always say, Chief, we've talked about it on the show that throughout your career, I'm sure even for yourself, you hit these sweet spots, right? And even if you're in a place for 5 years, there might be 2 or 3 years, 2 years that it's perfect, right? Where you're in sync with all the guys and the bosses and everything, and you're catching work, whatever it is. And then you might go off the rails a little bit for a couple of years, then you come back and then you hit a sweet spot again, and it goes through your whole career and that was probably something like that.
You guys know, man, when you start having children, you know, you're busy, right? You know, and maybe you're not making as many of the firehouse functions as you used to, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It just happens. But you're right. There's ebb and flow, like, right? You know, and it changes over time. But one thing that never changes in the fire department is the people, man. It's all the people on the job. From the time I came on to the time I left, it's all about the people, and that's the greatest part of the job. It was fun, man. Believe me, I had a lot of fun.
My God, it was so good.
But it was fun. But it was a great experience.
So you put in 5 years there, and you decide you want to transfer a truck. So what makes you pick 102?
So it is an interesting story too. So 1983 comes. I got a couple of years on the job. You know, almost 3. I never got to do my truck detail. So remember, you were doing 90-day truck detail or whatever.
30 days, 60 days,
So
whatever.
120 and 176 were in my battalion in the 4-4. Back in those days, they had 30, 35 guys on the roster. So I could never get a detail. So Eddie Higgins says to me, 1983, says, listen, how would you like to go do your truck detail in 132? I'm like, yeah, I know they're busy. They're going to work. And that's where his son, Timmy, worked. So they had a bunch of guys on medical leave, and they needed some guys. So he called the captain down there, this guy, Joe Abruzzo, Uncle Joe. And he says, I'm going to send Tommy for his truck detail. So I go to 132 for a detail. And that's in the 3-8 battalion. So I go. Now I'm there for 90 days. The captain says, why don't you stay? I'm like, oh, okay. So I stay. And I put a paper in. So another few months go by, a transfer order's coming out. Vigiano's my guy. He was a lieutenant there, as a matter of fact, in 132 years.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's a home run.
Yeah. So he says, all right, we're going to take care of it. All good. Transfer order comes down. 5 guys transfer into 132, and I'm not one of them.
Oh, my God. That's crazy.
And 2 of the guys were from 227.
Come on.
My buddy Kevin Butler, who went on to become the Bronx Borough Commander, and another guy, John Paris. So I'm like, what happened? So as it turns out, I call Vigiano.
A lot of hooks.
What happened? Whatever. So he says his hook was this guy, Jerry O'Donnell, was the executive officer to the fire commissioner at the time. He forgot.
Oh, no.
So now I go back to 227. So now this is probably mid to late 1983. So I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm back in 227. And I figure I'm going to start studying for lieutenant. The test is a couple of years away because guys are starting to study. So then Vigiano calls me one day and says, hey, what do you think about 102? I'm like, I know 102 is working too because I would hear them on the radio all the time. So he says, all right, here's what you got to do. I'm going to call the captain. You got to go talk to the captain. So I do. The captain was Dennis Cross.
Yep.
So I go to 102. I knock on the door. Yeah, Tom, no problem. He said, put your paper in. I don't know. A very short time later, I'm transferred to 102. So I'm in 102. So at that point, I went to 102 in January of 85.
Oh, my goodness.
So we catching good work there?
Oh, my
Yeah, it was great, man. I mean, the lieutenants, the Cross was the captain. This guy, John Dougherty, was a lieutenant. He was a 26 truck guy. A guy named Frank DeLetto was awesome. Tommy DeAngelis came. We had Joe Dirks was a lieutenant there. just one for guy. I worked with Mike Banker in 102 and a whole bunch of other guys. Eddie Travis, Eddie Garrity. I could
all those guys, Chief, when I got promoted, all those guys, Cross, unfortunately, he passed away, right? He was in the 5'7", which was right down the road in 235. Travis, one of the sweetest guys I ever met in the whole. He was a 102 guy. Went there. Chief Garrity, right? He was in the 5'7" there too. Was he in the 5'7"?
Garrity was a lieutenant in 102. Eddie Garrity was a chief. The brother.
Yeah.
Steve Garrity's brother was a chief.
Yeah, was he in the 5'7" as well?
No, he was in the 9th Battalion.
Oh, all right. But all those guys went over there to the 5'7".
Yeah, when I went there, it was 209 engine, 102, and the 3-4 battalion was still in service.
And 210 right down the road. Just throwing it out there.
And rescue right down the road.
Thank you.
He said the rescue down the road.
Thank you.
When I went there, the captain and the officers just said, "Listen, we go on boxes with rescue. Just make believe they're not there. We're first due. We're first due. We're first due. We're second due. We're second due. Okay, blah, blah." And we got along fine. It was fun. So I was only there 2.5 years. I was trying to go to rescue too. Of course, Vigiano was lieutenant there still.
Oh my God, he must have been prodding you the whole time.
He was. But I swear to God, I'm in 102 a couple of years, and
that's a great house, man. I love.
Go see Downey. Go see Downey. Go see Downey. So Downey lived in Deer Park, also not far.
There you go.
So I said, "What I got to do? I got to go cut this guy's lawn. What do I got to do?" So I go see Downey. And, he says, "You got to spend some time in the truck." So I did. And in 1986, I took the lieutenant's exam. We took it in June, and I did pretty good. I did a whole bunch of guys in 102, 209. The truck, I think we had like 18 guys on the list.
Wow.
And I take the test, and the test gets thrown out.
Oh.
They threw the test out because of alleged cheating of some sort.
I remember that. I remember hearing about that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we take the test again in December, and I'm like, I didn't really hit it. Like I was having a hard time. My two daughters. I only had one daughter at the time. She was a baby, and I took the test again in December of '86, 2 weeks or so before Christmas. And I walked out. I said, I think I failed, man. I'm done.
Oh, whatever. No. I was going to ask you if you thought you did better.
No, I didn't.
Most of the time you say you think you failed.
I did much worse.
Oh, no.
But I made the list.
But
so
that's all right. You had time to go to rescue too then.
So now what happens is when they promulgated the lieutenant's list in 1987, I think it was like June or July, June maybe, they promoted 100 lieutenants on the first day. So like 5 guys in Rescue 2 got promoted.
Whoop.
Jack Kleehouse, Patty Brown, Charlie Williams, maybe. There was like 5 guys. So I come in, I'm working my night tours in 102. I work my first night, I go home, I come back the second night tour, I walk in the office, I come in through the front door, and the lieutenant in the truck, I think it was Lieutenant DeLetto, say, "Tommy, hey, congratulations." I says, "What?" He says, you detailed to rescue, effective, whatever, in your next set of tours. I'm like, "What?" So, Ray Downey never called me or anything. Like, I owe guys mutuals. I was like, "Oh my God, how am I going to do this?" Not only that, the captain was on vacation. So I'm like, how am I going to, like, he knew I was trying to go there, but he said, the lieutenant says, "You better call the captain." I'm like, I was scared to death. I'm like, so I come home the next morning and I'm like, I guess I got to call the captain. I remember standing in my bedroom and I called the captain. I say, "Cap, Tom Richardson." He said, and I told him the story, and he said, "Listen, I'd love to keep you for a couple of more years. I think you got some more to learn." He says, "But I would never stop anybody from advancing their career." And he was right. I wish I could have stayed in the truck another couple of years. I could have used maybe 5 years in the truck instead of 2.5. Because I went to rescue, say I had almost 7 years, 6.5. I didn't know anything, man. Honestly, truthfully. I mean, I worked in 2 good companies, but I felt so intimidated. Like I went to work. I got Ray Downey's the captain, Vigiano's the lieutenant.
God,
this guy, Artie Connolly's a lieutenant, old school, old timer.
How are you not going to feel intimidated walking through those
Oh my
doors?
God. Lee Ielpi, Pete Bondi, Larry Gray, and among others.
Chief, what was it like the first day squeaking? Did you like poke your head in the front door? Like what was that?
I was scared, to be honest with you, man. I just walked in. I'm like, I didn't know what to expect. There was no formal training back then. Now by that time I'm a volley for quite a while. Maybe 7-8 years in the volleys. So I knew the Hurst stuff and like some basic stuff. But these guys, this is Rescue 2, man. Like Rescue Company 2, like the busiest company in the freaking city. And I'm like, wow. So I just had a great career. It was, oh man, one of the highlights of my career.
Were they still on Carlton when you went there?
No, they were on Bergen Street.
Oh, they moved to Bergen?
They moved to Bergen Street in July of 1985.
Oh,
so
that's
I went in August of 87. So I went there within a couple of weeks of each other. It was me. I think Timmy Higgins might have been the first guy. He went from 132. Mikey Esposito from 214 and 111. Billy Lake from 105. Me and Kevin Dowdell. Kevin was in Squad 1. Wow. So now, out of 5 of us, 4 of those guys got killed on 9/11.
Oh my God.
Yeah, those aren't good odds, right?
Well, it was terrible. But I'll tell you what, I learned. When I got promoted to, in fact, when I went, I said to the captain, I said, I'm on a lieutenant's list because you got a couple of years yet. That's good. So I was there from the day I went on the detail to the time I got promoted because I got assigned about a year after I was detailed. I was there almost 3 years to the day because I got promoted in August of 1990. So
were you in the captain's groups?
I was in Vigiano's groups at first. He got promoted. He got promoted about a year after I got there to captain. And then John Norman came.
Right.
Paul
Never heard of him.
Came as a boss. Yeah, man. I mean, it was.
ILP's grandkid is in the chat, and he's asking, what was it like working with his grandpa?
So Lee ILP was probably one. Again, I never saw a guy more calm in a fire, like in some bad situations, man. Like this guy was unbelievable. He was just a smart, solid, thinking firefighter. I'm going to tell you something I learned. I tell the story all the time when I used to teach a lot. I used to tell guys the story. So we go to a fire, and we're in his warehouse, big open warehouse, and I'm with Lee ILP, and he's carrying his Halligan hook. He was the chauffeur, I think, at this job. I forget what position I had, but we're together anyway. We're in the building, and all of a sudden he stops. And Lee ILP was a small guy. He's probably about 5'8".
Yeah. If that.
Yeah. When he stopped, he took the hook and he held it up above his head. And I'm like, what the hell's he doing? Then he'd take it down, he'd take his glove off, and he would feel the top of the hook.
Holy shit, man. I never heard anything like that.
He was checking the heat, like 10 feet up, 12 feet up, maybe 10. He was just a smart.
How's that for an old school tip?
That is an old school tip, man. And I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that.
Right, but now, today we have thermal imaging cameras.
Yeah, right.
And we're certainly bunkered up a little more than we ever were before. But back in then, Rescue 2, a bunch of us went out and bought our own bunker pants. We were wearing bunker pants when I was there. A couple of us wore bunker pants.
The knee pads.
We were wearing hoods. We were wearing hoods back then.
Wow.
After a little while.
Chief, who was your guy there? Who was your guy that, if you think back, like who was the guy that taught you the most, or who was the guy that you looked up to the most, you were trying to impress the most, or
there were so many guys. Oh my God.
I mean, there was a lot of guys there that don't even look like you there.
I got so many pics here of you and R2, so we'll go through
some.
Yeah, the only reason I was going to tell the audience, the only reason why there's all these Rescue 2 pictures is because we always had people riding with us.
Yeah.
So they always took a lot of pictures, and they used to give them to us. So, but yeah, that was.
Wow, look at that. There's some more up there.
I mean, ILP, Pete Bondi, Larry Gray, Richie Evers. Richie Evers just passed away.
Richie Evers just passed away, right?
Just passed away.
They talk
Lieutenant
about him
Artie
as being the
Connolly.
senior guy, right? He was like the senior guy there.
Look at
Richie
this
was
young,
when he retired.
look
Yeah.
at this young guy with the rubber coat.
Your helmet looks like it's all burned up.
Yeah,
Didn't
man.
take
I
long
tell you
for
what,
that to happen, right?
I was only there for 3 years, man. But I tell you what, I went to my share of fires, man. Oh my god, wow! It
That's
was
the busiest place on earth. There's no doubt
it was
about it.
unbelievable, man. And Ray Downey, probably the toughest guy I ever saw on the fire floor. Just
In
tough,
terms of what? Like,
tough. He was just tough. Like he could take a beating. That guy, he was unbelievable. So I remember one time going to fire. So back in those days, a lot of guys didn't wear their face piece all the time. They used to maybe take hits, off the face piece or whatever. Back in those days, guys wore the cheaters and all of that stuff.
allegedly.
Ray Downey did not use a cheater at all. He was just tough. So we went to a fire on Flatbush Avenue one time. Freddie Gallagher was the chief in the 4-1 battalion, and it was the cellar of a shoe store.
Ooh.
And I remember getting there, and I think I had the can. Larry Gray was driving, and it was that boiling hot smoke coming out of the cellar. And I'm like, Freddie Gallagher's telling Downey, all right, go down there and help 248 move the line. I'm like, oh. I saw Downey put his face piece on, and I'm like, this is going to be bad.
Oh my God!
We went down, and 248 did an unbelievable job. The fire was all the way in the back, of course, and they put the fire out. But when Ray Downey went to a fire, he had such a ton of respect for the chiefs. When things weren't going well and they would give Ray an assignment, you go in a building. When that guy went in and he was on the fire floor, he'd start barking stuff out, and all of a sudden the fire went out. Like he was just amazing, just an amazing guy.
Big. I say this all the time. He made an impact at a job, no matter what he did, bro. It was like
He did.
Impact at a job. Yep.
He was the captain of rescue for like 14 years.
Really? I didn't know that.
He went there in 1980 when Fred Gallagher got promoted. Fred Gallagher was there from, I think, 72 or 73. Downey was in Squad 1. When they reopened Squad 1, I think in 1977,
yep.
Downey was the captain. Then when Freddie Gallagher got promoted, Ray Downey came as the captain. In 1980, he got promoted to chief in 1994.
14 years. Can you how many jobs that guy went through in 14 years in rescue too? Holy years.
Shit. Chief Norman is asking, ask the chief about the night he burned his head through his helmet.
So listen, if you get the chance, John just wrote a book. If you didn't see it yet, it's called Working with Giants.
Yes, we had him on.
I'm in the book, man.
I read the book twice. I know it. I read the book twice.
I'm in the
book. Yeah. It's a great book.
So we get a job, Sterling Place and Schenectady Avenue, right after the change of tours, like right after roll call. So I had the can. John was working. We turned the corner. We run straight up Schenectady Avenue, 123 and 234. Got to go down St. John's to Utica and come up the block. The building was right on the corner, Schenectady. It faced Sterling, but it was a corner building. So we get there. People are out in the street, and they're pretty excited. They're saying there's kids up in the apartment. Fire turns out on the top floor. We get up the stairs to the left. They leave the door open, of course. And the hallway was like an L-shaped hallway. And, the shit is rolling out the door. I got the can, so I'm up there with the can. John and I forget who had the irons. We go crawling in. And, of course, the fire's in almost the last room. You make the turn. And I'm like, and it's out into the hallway. So John starts to do a search. I get down there with my can, and I'm trying to hold it into the room. I'm trying to get the door closed. And the door, I can't find the door. Like the door was all the way open. So John is doing a search, and he's telling me, you got to get the door. You got to get the door. I'm like, I'm trying, So finally, I was using a can. I was almost out. I'm waiting for 123 to come up with another can. I basically just jumped in the room, and I grabbed the door handle, and I pulled the door closed. But by that time, the top of the door was burnt off. Like, it's still coming out. 234 still coming out with the line. The other can comes up, and John, he makes a grab. I don't know if it was one or two kids. He would know. I think it was two, maybe one. But there wound up being 2 kids, I think, in the apartment. So I remember him going out, and I remember him saying that he had somebody. So once they came up with the other can and the line, I'm like, all right, let me go finish the search. I wind up in the bathroom, like across the hall, bumping into shit. And I think there was another kid in there. I think there was 2 kids, if I remember. John would be able to tell you. But yeah, so Dennis Murphy was working that night too, and he was working at night. So we come out of the building, and Dennis Murphy, I'm in the back of the rig. He says, "Bro, what happened to your helmet?" My eye shields are melted down. My helmet is crispy. So I said, man, the top of my head hurt.
When you burn your head, your hair with your helmet on.
I pulled my helmet off, and I got like a big blister in the middle of my head.
Oh no!
You can't make that up.
We went to the hospital. I remember. I don't know if John went with the kid or how it worked out. I don't remember what's in the book, but we go to the hospital, and I got it looked at by the doctor. I don't remember if I went sick or not.
Chief, there's a couple of pics I want to take a look at. First of all, I want to take a look at this one not because there's just a raging fire behind you, but that you had the time to take a wonderful photo. Remember this raging fire? What went on here?
Pete
so we probably had one of the photographers riding with us that night. I don't remember who it was, but that was down in Coney Island, because back in those days, that was before Rescue 5 came over the bridge. So we would go down to Coney Island. It was a rail tanker car, like a tanker car. So Al Fuentes was the lieutenant. He was covering through the rescues. And that's Pete Martin who's on my left. And Frank Johnston is on my right.
Wow. What a
Frank
crew.
Frank Johnston went on to be a captain. And Petey, unfortunately, he died on 9/11.
Yeah.
But,
let me tell you, if I could look as salty as any of the 3 of you, my God,
I was new. I was brand new in the company then. I don't think I was in the company a couple of months.
It looks like you got a hood. Is that a hood you're wearing?
Yeah, we had a hood on.
Yeah, man. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pete Martin was probably one of the best firefighters I ever worked with too. He was an unbelievable firefighter. He was great. So there was a rail car on fire, and they had a couple of other ones that were like exposures. I remember we had to go in there. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I'm just following the officer. We all had to go in there. We wound up, I think, somebody must have tried to light this place up. There was a couple of cars leaking. I think it was diesel fuel or some other flammable liquid. We had to go in there and crawl underneath or whatever and shut the valves off. And we wound up getting a unit citation. I think I was there for 2 months.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
That's insane.
Chief Norman did say there were 2 kids there. Unfortunately, neither one of them made it.
Right.
Right. Well, and also, okay, so then there was this other one here with I know that you didn't make the grab in this photo, but you gave CPR. Was that it?
Yeah, so that fire there, the night of that fire, we were actually down at the communications office on Empire Boulevard. We would often go there to say hello to the dispatchers.
Bring a couple of cakes.
And we were hanging out, and the job comes in down in Flatbush, like down by 255, 157, down in that neighborhood. So we take the job in. Jack Kleehouse was covering lieutenant that night in Rescue 2. And it was a house fire. It was a private dwelling, 2.5 story. And when we got there, we got assigned to search or whatever. And Jack found the kid. He found the kid between a bed and the wall in a bedroom. But we were all searching, and Jack handed the kid off to us. And then Bruce Howard is the other guy there. Bruce, that's him, Bruce Howard. We ran the kid out of the building and down the block to the ambulance. And
wow.
We were doing CPR and mouth to mouth and all of that.
Did he make it, the kid?
I think he did, if I remember correctly. I think he did.
Amazing.
He did. Yeah, that was we were hanging out down in the CO.
That was Warren back in the day.
Oh man, you're not going to get any better than that guy.
Nah.
In fact, I'm going to dinner with him next week.
I love talking to him. I talk to him once a month.
Yeah, go up to the Crown Fried Chicken, make a right. You go 2 blocks down, make a left at the bodega, and
they got hot dogs over there.
Yeah.
All right, Chief, and I got to ask you about this. What's with these white coats here?
That was my first year in the company. So I got there in August of '87. This is New Year's Eve, 1987. So you got Lieutenant Vigiano,
Yep.
you got Lee Ielpi, Frank Johnston, Mike Penna,
Pete
and
Markin.
Pete Martin are to the
Yeah.
right of Vigiano. So Vigiano was always like a prankster and all of that. So he says, New Year's Eve, we're all going to wear white coats. So Lee Ielpi was a volley chief in Great Neck. So he brought in all these white coats from the volleys. So that night, I remember we had 2 runs and 2 jobs. We had a second alarm on Lewis Avenue and Chauncey Street, or Lewis and Decatur. Right
by
down the
111. Yep.
And we had another job, a second alarm down in Bushwick. So I remember being at the job. This is great. So Vigiano, he was smooth. And I remember one of the chiefs must have asked him, like, what's up with the white coats? He'd say, pilot program, chief, pilot program.
Of course, he's going to believe it. I see that you had your bunker pants on in that one.
I had my bunker pants on. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
I think you're the only one, because that
picture, I'm the only one. There were a couple other guys in the company that wore them, but I'll tell you what, they were nice to have, man. I'll tell you, it's great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Holy. Yeah.
What a great shot, man. What legends in that shot, bro.
All right. We got a couple more here that we could definitely go through. Hold on. Here's another.
Oh,
so here's my man. He was one of my favorite guys in the rescue as well. Dennis Mojica.
Yeah.
Dennis was killed on 9/11. He was a lieutenant rescue one at the time. Just one of the nicest, most wonderful guys I ever met on his job. He was in rescue when I got there. He was from 120. So Dennis got in the job in 1973.
Wow.
Got assigned, I think, to 290. He gets laid off in 1975, I guess it was, the layoffs. And when he came back, I think he went to 120. And he came to rescue from 120. Now, I remember him in 120 when I was in 227, because I would always go on details there,
Uh-huh.
But great guy. Look at that. Handsome guy, man. Good looking dude, man.
Yeah, man.
Great guy, man.
Patty Lee said Dennis was a great guy too.
Yeah.
Patty Lee was 124.
You know, I only caught one job with him. He was detailed to us. Very calm, bro. We had a church fire ripping, and we're trying to force the door. Me, Lee Ielpi's son, John, and Adam Rand. And he was very calm. He's like, yeah, guys, we got to get the store. So get going a little bit. Because they were having a little trouble.
Take your time, but just hurry up.
Yeah. Right. He was very calm, bro. Like,
he was awesome. I never saw a guy sweat more in my life than Dennis Mojica.
Oh, he was a sweater? Yeah.
Oh, my God. That guy could sweat, man.
There's always a couple of those guys in the firehouse, right? They're always just like,
who you got there, Mojica?
6 degrees out there.
It is Mojica. Paul McFadden was the boss. George, the guy all the way on the right, I forget his name. George, I forget his last name. He was a good guy. He was in the company for a little while. John Cannon, he wound up being a lieutenant rescue one.
Rescue one, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, you know who that is in the middle? I think that's
Chief
Patso.
Bro. Who is it?
No, I think that's Patsos from 123. One of the Patsos brothers. He must have been detailed.
There was
another
123.
It is 123.
I thought there was only 2 Patsos boys.
Oh, it does look like
one of them was in 123. I think that's who it is.
It is 123, Chief.
I think it's one of the Patsos guys.
Those Patsos boys.
Yeah,
that gotta be Greek. It looks Greek, right?
Yeah.
I'm a half of Greek.
Oh, there you go.
My mother was Greek.
I'll visit your family this
Saturday.
Saturday.
Used to think too. Coops used to think that.
I'll be in Greece on Sunday.
Yeah,
nice.
I used to think I was all German. I don't know what happened.
Awesome. So, Chief, I got to ask you also, look at this shot right here, man. What a great shot.
That's a pretty cool shot. Again, one of the buffs riding, taking pictures. I guess I was coming out of a building doing something. I was nice and dirty this, so I must have did some work.
Oh, my goodness. I'm sure you did. Very nice. Yeah. What an experience it must have been there at R2.
Oh,
now, okay, so we heard when you first, squeaked the door open and you were kind of scared to go to work. How did it go after a while? Like after you got your flow there, how did you feel, after a couple years at R2?
It took me a little while, of course, to get more comfortable. But the more fires you go to, the more repetitions you get, right? When you do things, the more comfortable you become. And by the time I was in my last year there, the last part of my last year, I felt pretty good, man. I felt pretty confident that I could be an officer. Like, because Vigiano always used to say, we're training guys to be officers here. Because a lot of those guys you saw in those pictures all became officers. A lot of them became officers. And I felt pretty good. I felt like I'd handle myself as a boss. I got made with a little less than 10 years on the job. So it was good, man. It was a great experience. But I learned so much. Even going back to my days in 102, the guys that I worked with there that I got to learn the truck work stuff. You go through the job, and you guys could relate to this too. How many times you get lucky on this job? Like you make mistakes. When I first went to 102, and I'll just tell you this quick story because this is a story for a lot of the young kids listening. Maybe they could pick something up. I got the roof one night, and we go to a job. I remember it was on Gates and Troop. A couple of vacant buildings. It was firing a good vacant. I got the roof, and I go to the roof, go up the aerial on the exposure, go across. It was a tenement, old tenement. And I'm all excited because I'm going to cut the roof. It might have been my first time cutting a roof, other than drill. So I go up there and I'm doing everything I'm supposed to. I'm wheeling the saw like the wheelbarrow thing, like you're supposed to. I'm like,
this is how they taught me.
And I'm going across the roof. But remember now, if you remember, we teach guys, if you're going to cross from one building to another, you should do it in the front of the building, right? But my adrenaline's flowing or whatever, and I'm going to go cut this roof, right? Place is roaring. And I'm taking a few steps, and all of a sudden, somebody grabs me from behind. And I don't remember who it was. I do not remember. Another 2 steps, I would have walked right into a shaft.
Shit.
So, right. So, the guy said to me, slow down. And I learned my lesson from that day forward. Anytime I was on a roof, it was nice and deliberate, nice and slow. Right?
Every step, right?
Every step.
Wow.
But, you take those experiences, you can take them with you, and you share them with other guys, and gals. And, when I went to rescue, like I said, I had a lot to learn. But I learned it pretty quickly there just because of the amount of fires that
Only that many fires, you're going to learn in a hurry, right?
It was great, man. And, where we were going to first do fires too. Like
you guys were in a perfect spot over there.
It was first to work all over the place.
And then they're asking Chief also in the chat, do you have any Hatton stories?
Terry Hatton, my man. So Terry Hatton and I were in St. Proby class.
Oh, wow.
So Terry got assigned a 219 engine. I think he went to the truck 105 like a year when he got a probation. He was in rescue, I think, right before he turned first grade. So he was in rescue with like 3 years on the job. So when I went there, Terry had been there a few years already.
Mm-hmm.
And again, just a super sharp guy, squared away. Terry knew every tool, every number on every tool, every ounce per square inch.
He breathed
knew
it.
everything about everything.
It was in his DNA, that guy, man.
He used to sleep on the kitchen table. Literally. He used to lay on the kitchen table.
Holy shit.
Quick turnout.
I never heard that, bro.
He was a sharp dude, man.
Yeah, man.
He was a sharp guy. He loved going to fires too, man. He was just he was a good guy.
He was the job through and throughout, bro. That guy.
Oh, he ate it, he lived it, he breathed it.
Yeah. You think he would eventually take over Downey's job as
I have no doubt that Terry would have been a chief.
Yeah.
And probably so. Like, right, it was in his DNA, man. Like, that was his thing, And,
Chief, I remember seeing him. He was a lieutenant in Rescue 4 when I first got on. I got on 93, and I used to see him at jobs and stuff. And I always used to remember, I mean, we've talked about this on the show. He was so young looking, right?
Yeah.
But he was so squared away. I mean, again, we were coming from, the North Queens. Guys weren't wearing all like, maybe, shit. I had boots for a couple of years. And he was square. He would show up. The rescue would show up, and everybody. He'd have his hood on. we didn't have hoods then, but he'd have everything. And I remember looking at that guy going, holy shit, man, he is young. Like,
yeah.
And he was the head of the rescue.
He was ready to go to work at all times.
Yeah,
man.
yeah. No doubt about it.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, man. I told the story already. I'll tell it again because Chief's here. So I get detailed from 288 to Rescue 1 one day, right? So he's sitting at the table doing a roll call. This is exactly what he says to me. He's writing the roll call, right? He's sitting there writing. He looks at me. He goes, does your mother know you're here?
Of all guys, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, he looked like a baby.
Yeah, man.
I mean, he really looked like a baby.
That story never gets not funny.
Of all guys. Oh my god.
Oh, man.
Holy
Wow.
smokes.
Yeah,
Oh, gosh.
he was great.
All right. So let's get to the part where you get promoted and you get a spot in 235. Roof, I don't know how that happens. The guy gets promoted lieutenant, goes right to 235.
I'm gonna go with.
I lived a charmed life. So when I got promoted to lieutenant, back then a lot of guys from Brooklyn were going to Harlem. So Ray Downey says, "Where you want to go?" I says, "I'll go to Harlem." So I get assigned covering to the 16th Battalion. It was the old 5th Division, Division 5. So I go, I'm assigned to the 16th Battalion, and I'm covering, and I'm enjoying it. I'm going to some fires. It was great. And a lot of guys from Brooklyn that I worked with in the area were up there. But again, the Brooklyn guy going to Harlem or the Bronx, you know how that goes, right?
Square peg.
It was different, right? But I enjoyed it. But I'm up there about 7 or 8 months, and Al Fuentes, I don't know if you guys remember.
Yeah, I know him. Yeah.
So Al Fuentes, so he was a fireman in Rescue 1. He gets promoted to lieutenant. He was covered in like the rescue services, but then he winds up getting a spot in 235 as a lieutenant. He calls me up. And when I was in rescue, we were in the battalion. So 111 was the only truck in the battalion. Everything else was engines. 235, 230, 217, and 235, 230, 217, I think, and 111 and 214.
Was 230 in that? No.
230, yes. So we would get detailed to the companies. So Al Fuentes gets a spot in 235. So I knew all the companies around there, right? I did my first part of my career. Al Fuentes calls me, says, "Tommy, I'm going to put a paper in for 102. He says, 235 is going to be open, man. You should try and come back." And I said, "Oh my God, that's like an unbelievable spot." So I go and I see Chief Burns, Phil Burns, in the 11th Division commander. So again, Vigiano's my guy. Vigiano makes a call for me. I go see Chief. Chief Burns. I go see him and I explain to him, I'd like to transfer back to Brooklyn. Blah 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 blah. He says, "All right, Tom, put your paper in." I'm transferred back to the 11th Division, covering 5-7 Battalion. Al Fuentes is transferred to 102. Within a month or two, they put me UFO.
Oh my God, that's great.
I wonder how that happened. It just happened.
235.
I love that spot.
And then I got assigned there. I got assigned there months later, and I loved it there. So this guy Joe Watts was the captain. He was the man. He was Crazy Joe, man. He was the man. He was a 28 and 11 guy from back in the day.
Oof.
Bobby Sweeney was a lieutenant there when I went there.
Wow.
And this guy Mel Harper. Mel Harper was an old 120 guy years ago. Tough old guy. He was great. So he winds up being my 24 partner. So now I'm there, and the captain's test is coming like a year and a half to 2 years later. So I start studying for captain. And Sweeney was a sharp student, like really sharp.
Is that the chief department, Sweeney, that guy?
Guy that was chief operations, yeah.
Oh, chief operations. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then he wound up being a commissioner in Yonkers.
Right, same guy. Yeah.
Bobby was the man. He was such a good guy. So, he taught me so much as an officer. And then, he was such a sharp student. So I wound up doing pretty good on the captain's test. So I get promoted to captain in 94, March. Sweeney got promoted. They promoted captains provisionally in September 93 before the list got even promulgated because they needed captains. So they made them provisional, and he was on the top of the list. So then in March of 94, they make another batch of guys, and I get promoted. So, Yeah, I was in 235.
I love that place.
Almost 3 years, 2.5 years.
Was Lois there then? Somebody's
yes,
asking in the
she
chat.
was great, man. Loved working with her. She was awesome. We had a good job one night. I mean, I'm going to tell you a story because it's a great story. So we got a job, Nostrand Avenue and Hancock Street. Middle of the night, turn the corner, going up Nostrand, smoking the street, 1075, like a 4-story, maybe 5, big old tenement, fire escapes, bodega on the first floor. The bodega's going. So we got to wait for the truck to get in. It's all rolled down gates. But there's people on the fire escape, and the drop ladder won't come down. So I tell Lois, grab a ladder.
Ladder off the rig.
So she grabs the portable. She throws the portable up to the opposite side of the fire escape. She climbs up. She helped people, like, I don't know, half a dozen people down from the fire escape. The truck comes, opens the door. We go in. We put the fire out, and we get a unit citation.
I think she talked about that on her
she
show.
She did tell us that story. Yeah, we had her on.
We got a unit citation, man. And we had a probie working, too. I forget who the probie was. I think the probie had the nozzle. So, yeah, that was another great night. That was a great company, man. Like, they were, again, solid engine company. They had good officers there always. And the firefighters there, the senior people there were awesome, man. It was just so great. The chiefs in the battalion were awesome.
Oh my God, Travis, Chief. When I got promoted right after 9. I got promoted June of 2002.
Yeah.
Aguero he got promoted right there at that time. He became the captain of 235.
Yeah.
And then I did probably a few vacations because I was assigned to the 5-7.
Yes,
I did a few vacations there, and but there was one guy who had been UFO there for a while, and he ended up staying there a long time. Stamler, who I came on. Stamler.
Oh, okay, yeah, Greg Stanley.
Greg Stanley, yeah.
Greg,
so I came on with him. He ended up staying there a long time. I think he just got out as well. But I always loved that spot, man. I mean, they did a lot of EMS by that time when I was there, but it's still.
When I first went there, this guy Harry Rogers was the battalion commander. Great man. He just passed away a year or so ago. Artie Sullivan, he might have been the battalion commander. It might have been Artie Sullivan. Harry Rogers, Artie Sullivan, Richie DePadova, and
oh my God, yeah.
I forget who the fourth chief was. I know Mike Canty came there shortly thereafter. But then Rogers retired. That's when Dennis Cross came. I think Dennis Cross came first, if I'm not mistaken.
Captain of 102.
Captain of 102.
Right.
And Harry Rogers was the captain of 102 as well.
Oh,
that's what I remember that. I remember. So I told the story the first day. I get promoted to lieutenant that night. They hired me for overtime in 102. Right. So it's middle of July. It's like 1,000 degrees. It's 109 degrees outside, and I get there. It's Richie Croce. All these guys. Ray Pollard was there. All these guys, right? All over 20-something years. So one of the first, couple of runs. Next run, we go out and it's roll down gate. A little bit of a job, bullshit. I don't even say anything. Next thing I know, they're fucking cutting the gate, right? I'm like, holy shit, they're cutting the gate, right? So I'm like, again, when you're a fireman, it's one thing, but now you're the boss. Right. I'm like, holy shit, the chief's going to say something. So now I was never in the right uniform ever. I always had a beard. I was a disaster. The guys take off their shirts. They have a shirt like this, but all the sleeves are cut. Everybody has a cut sleeve, right? So I'm like, holy shit. Like, it's my first tour, right? So now Chief Travis comes over. I introduce myself. I'm like, how you doing, Chief Louis Rafano? I just assigned him. Hey, Louis, you're going to love it. Don't worry. Great. You got a great company there where you're working in tonight. Whatever. He goes through the whole thing. So I get on the rig. We go back to quarters, and I see Richie Croce, and I'm like, Rich, I was a little nervous, because everybody had cut sleeves. I'm nervous. He's like, nah, he's a 102 guy. What are you kidding? I'm like, oh shit. I go upstairs. I take my shirt off and I cut my sleeves. And I went down and I stood like that the whole time.
Oh, shit.
And I ended up doing a few vacations there. I loved working in 102.
Yeah, that was a good place, man.
In Saudi, right?
When I was at 235, I don't remember who came first, but Cross was there. Pete Gansey came there as a battalion chief. I don't remember who came first. I don't remember. But I know Gansey wasn't there that long. He got there a couple of years and he got promoted to deputy. But he was another gentleman to work for. All of those chiefs, they would
Oh my God, that was a
you
great
just
spot.
they would you could be like a sponge with those guys. They just exuded information, like, you know what I mean? And they were great to work for. They made you a better officer, a better firefighter, and I'll always look back on that. So I worked with Gansey, like he becomes chief of department, right? That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Who did they run in with first two? 111, and who else were they?
111, 132, and 102. Sometimes 105. Sometimes 105 also.
Great spot, man, for a single engine.
Oh my God, that was a great spot. Great spot.
So the first year I was there, so I guess it was 91. Warren Fuchs, of course, he was the buff of buffs, right?
Never heard of him.
For 1 year we were there, 91 or 92. 235 allegedly gave the most 1075s in the city.
Yeah.
So that was cool,
Yeah.
And that was 1991 or 2, so it wasn't like, the 80s or anything, but we were going to fires. It was good. It was fun.
Yeah.
Saddle up looks like work.
Saddle up.
It was fun.
So then you go and you get promoted to captain in March of 94, right?
Correct.
Yep. And you here we go again, Ruth. You ready? Here we go again. Assigned to 234. How does that happen? I don't know.
No,
Look, here he is. All right.
well, of course,
Uncle John.
well, of course, there's always a backstory here, right?
All right, let's hear it.
So I'm in the kitchen in 235. I'm getting promoted. I'm in the kitchen. I'm having coffee with Chief Rogers, Harry Rogers, gentleman, just a true, quiet professional. He says, "Hey, Tom, congratulations. You're getting promoted to captain. You're a young guy. You're going to be a chief." He says, "You should go to Manhattan. Go to the 1st Division."
Really?
So I'm like, I don't know if I could do it. I don't know.
Triple subsellers? You don't like that?
Nah, I'm out.
Well, so I was like, I didn't listen to him, man. I wound up going. I got assigned to the 15th Division.
That sounds good, Chief, but nothing.
Well, I should have listened to him.
Yeah.
I should have listened to him.
Most
But
guys
anyway,
do. Most
you said
guys
15
do go
engine? I thought you said 15 division. I don't know what you're talking about.
So I'm covering as a captain, and they needed captains in SOC. So back then, I don't know if they called it special operations. It might have been rescue services or whatever. So I took a detail to SOC for about 6 months as a captain. And, I was doing vacations, did a couple vacations here and there. And I did a spot and rescue 5 for a couple of months. But there was no spots like that were going to come. I know that Rescue 1 was going to open, but I know John Norman, he's listening up tonight. John got the spot in Rescue 1. So I wound up going back. I wound up going back to the 15th. I called Ray down. He said, "I'm going to go back." So he said, "Okay." So I go back to the 15th. And, a few months later, they put me UFO in 234. Wow. So I was covering there.
Crazy. What a luck of the draw, bro. I tell you.
I covered there for well over a year because the captain was on light duty. And he eventually gives up the spot. And then I got assigned later on, and another.
Which is right down the road for people who don't know. That's literally right down the road from Rescue 2's quarters.
Right down the street. So that was another great firehouse with great firefighters, great chiefs. So I'm in the engine there, and I got Tommy Ryan as the battalion commander. This guy, Charlie Corcoran, they called him Cuckoo Corcoran. He was a character. This guy, John Carroll, and then a guy named Ralph Koppler was there at the time. Ralph Koppler, I think, retires, or John Carroll, one of those guys retired. Eddie Kilduff comes there, nice. I think in 1997. So I got to work with him. I got to work with him for maybe almost a year before I left to go to the squad. But again, I got to work with 2 chiefs of department.
That's pretty wild, actually.
Pretty cool, right?
That is pretty
cool.
So, that's how you did it. That's how you got all the. That's how you figured out what to do.
They said, I figured maybe I'm not as dumb as I look. Or something. So then the squad thing comes along. So that's 98 when I guess they started soliciting for people maybe earlier in late 97, maybe.
So who gave you the call telling you about the squads?
So this is actually pretty interesting. I don't remember who I happened to be having a conversation with, but somehow or another, I had seen it on the order, that they were looking for officers. But I said, you know what? I was in 234, maybe almost 3 years. I had 5 rotation firefighters. I had a couple new lieutenants. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't want to leave these guys. Like, I was just getting settled in there. We were going to fires. It was great, working with great people. And I remember Joe Downey calls me. Joe, the son.
Yeah.
He said, Tom, he says, you would you be interested in maybe in one of the squads? I said, I saw it on the order. I didn't really give it any thought. He said, well, he says, you should think about it. Blah, 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 blah. I said, I'll give it some thought. So he must have said something to his dad, that he was talking to me. So Ray Downey calls me like one day. I was at a funeral, actually. I remember, I forget whose funeral, but I was at a funeral. And I'm at the Deer Park Firehouse at the little collation afterwards. And Downey calls me and says, might you be interested? He says, I got 2 squads left open. He says, and I'm looking for captains. I said, Chief, I said, I'm still, thinking it over. I really haven't, put it thought. I said, I got to talk to my wife, He said, listen. So he gave me the whole rundown, all the training. And I said, I'm on the Chief's list too. I'm on the Chief's list. He says, listen, if you could give me a couple of years and get this thing off the ground, one of the companies, he says, that'd be great. So I said, can I get back to you tomorrow? He says, yeah, but you got to get back to me tomorrow. So I talked to my wife and everything, and then I called him back the next day. So I called him back the next morning. I says, all right, I'm in. I says, what are the companies?
I was just going to ask you.
You should have found that out first.
He says, 270 or 288. I said, all right. He says, I know you're going to tell me you want 270. I said, well, whatever. All right. If that's what you say, I said, right? So anyway, all right. I need you to be at headquarters tomorrow morning, 0900, Class A uniform. You're going to interview with the fire commissioner and the chief of department. I'm like, what? So, yeah. So the next morning I go. It's me, Ray Downey, Pete Gansey, who was really, I think he was acting chief of department maybe at the time, and Von Essen. Now, I never met Von Essen in my life. Never met the guy.
Right.
So I go on the interview, and I had a list of questions. Like, I was asking all kinds of questions. And he turns it down. He says, I like this guy. I'm not afraid to ask questions, So
how did they sell it to you? Did they tell you we're going to 1075s, or did they tell you it's
Yeah, they said, they told us right out of the gate, we were going to be hazmat unit, but we're going to go to 1075s. And so I was in. I'm in. So 270 and 288 are open. So Von Essen leans over the table and he says, so let me ask you a question. Which company would you prefer? I said, well, if you're asking me, I says, 270. He says, I figured they're maybe going to do a little more work or whatever, blah, blah. So he says, if I really need you for 288, would you do it? I'm like, of course I would. Absolutely. So we leave the meeting and Gansey grabs me. He says, you're getting 270, bro. He was just testing.
Good answer. That was a great answer.
But then that's how that all happened. So we all got transferred. You remember?
Yeah.
March 1st of 1998. We all went to the companies, and we were still engine companies.
Right,
Yep.
for 3 months.
Then we started going for the training and all of that. And then July 1, 1998.
Now, some of the guys stayed from 270, though, right? So you had
Yes, sir.
you had your list of guys who you wanted to bring over, like Tough Tony from Deer Park.
Tony, Joey Vaccaro.
Yeah.
Joey Vaccaro. And then when I went to the
Seeley.
Rock, Ray Seeley. So Ray didn't come
Ray came
right
after. He was an original guy.
No, Tommy Bone, too. I had to talk him into it.
Yep.
So.
And Norton.
No, 252.
No, he went to 252.
Oh, he went to 252, right?
So we're at the Rock. They were doing whatever they did, the tryouts, they called it, or whatever.
Tryouts.
So, I was making my notes and this and that. So just very quickly, this is a pretty cool story. when I first got promoted to captain, I told you I was assigned to the 15th Division, and I got a UFO assignment in 323 engine for a couple of months when I first got to the division. So I go to 323, and it was an interesting place. It was interesting back then. So I go, and who do I meet there but Frank Lieb? Lieb flying to 323. So Frankie Lieb. Yeah. Frankie Lieb had like 2 years on the job. So I'm like, I meet all these young guys there. I'm like, what are you guys doing here, man? You got to get out of here. Let's go to a busier company, blah, 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 blah. And I enjoyed my time there because I drilled a lot with the young guys. It was great. We wound up getting 3 probies like right after I got there. We got this kid, what was his name? Mike Kalish. He goes on to be, I think, a captain before he retired. This guy, Bobby Milan, and Richie Resto.
Oh, Richie Resto was there.
Holy shit. 18. Comes there as a probie. So I'm drilling the hell out of these guys for a couple of months. And then I'm out of there. They get a guy, they assign a guy there. I didn't put in for the spot. So I leave. So now here we are 6 years later, and I'm at the, this is 4 years later. I'm at the Rock, and I see Frank Lieb at the tryouts. And I said, where are you now? Because he was trying to go like the 275.
Right.
He says, I'm still in 323. I said, bro, I got to take this guy with me. So I took him to the squad.
That's how things happen. That's how they happen.
Right?
He made an impression on you. You saw him.
What a great luck. Look at him now, man. Look at him now.
You need a little bit of luck.
Look at him now, man. Here we are.
Oh, look at Smithwick in the middle. Holy shit.
Crazy Michael. My man. So Joe Calvaca, he's the guy standing in front of Jimmy Earl.
Yeah.
He stayed a couple of years, but then he left.
Yeah.
There's Tough Tony, Mike, Stevie Witter. He wound up getting promoted to lieutenant.
Yep.
He wound up getting promoted lieutenant. Cecilia Thompson, she retired. And then Greg Haynes.
I like
one
Greg.
Of the best fighters I ever worked with in 123, man.
Yeah.
I was so happy when he came.
I tried to get him on the show. I've been trying to get him on. I don't know if it's.
I think he lives like in New Mexico now.
He lives somewhere. The guys are trying to get him for me, but it's tough.
He was one of the greatest firefighters I worked with over there. He was such a good teacher.
He made a good grab. I remember.
Yeah.
He got a medal. I remember that.
Yes, he did. He got a medal in 123. I was working in the engine. He got a medal in 123, and I was working in night. He got the medal in squad. We went to a job in a 5-0. And I remember
I've been working on him.
I remember writing him up for the job, right? So I put it in, and they give him an A. And I was like, I'm not really one to think about appeals and all of that, but I was like, this he should have got a 3, man. I'm like, so Chief Manahan, if you remember him, he was the chief in the 5-0 battalion that night. And this guy, Joe Curry, was in the division. And, I called, the division was in quarters. So I talked to Chief Curry. I wound up talking to Manahan. Listen, man, I'm going to put in an appeal. Because when you put in an appeal, you got to put in new evidence and everything. But I felt so strongly. So check this out. He got an A. The order comes out with the appeals. They gave him a class 2.
That's some creative writing. That's some creative writing there, Chief.
They must have been light on class 2s that year. I don't know. But no, he was great, man. He was.
So how did you wind up picking your other guys? Like
Eric Daly was the other guy.
Oh,
I remember.
Eric came.
Yeah.
So when I worked in 234 and 123, Eric was in the truck. But not when I was there. He had transferred out. He went to 9 truck. But he didn't like it. He wanted to come back to 123. The captain in the truck wouldn't take him back. So he comes to see me, and they tell me, Cap, they're telling me, this guy's a wingnut, man. Don't take him. Don't take him.
He was a wingnut.
So I took him in the engine. He came back to the engine. So I worked with him in the engine, and I liked him, man. I think this guy's awesome. He was into it.
He was a good fireman.
He was great. So when I went to the squad, he didn't come originally, but I was looking for some guys, and I called him, and he came. He was great. He
I
was
had a
awesome.
couple of good. I think he was in 175, if I remember right, at the time.
He was a lieutenant 175.
175, because I used to run in with him.
Yep.
And we had some good jobs together. Like again, because I knew him, it worked perfect considering
He was
that
good.
area.
He was good. He was good on
He
fire.
he had some demons, obviously, or
Yes, he
something
did.
going on.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he did. He did, but
He was a good fireman, man. I
solid
trusted that guy.
fireman.
Yeah.
So as far as Kevin, you asked about how did I pick the guys, like, right? So when I first went there, in my mind I was like, I'm not throwing anybody out. Like I'll give everybody a shot. Anybody wants to give it a shot, I'm in, because this is a great opportunity, man, for a young firefighter.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
So I went to the company. I had a little company meeting, and I told the guys, look, this is a good opportunity. If you want to stay and you want to give it a shot, no problem. I'll give everybody a shot. But I says, here's some of the ground rules. So I laid it out. Like I didn't tolerate. I'm not going to tolerate medical leave abuse. This is what we're going to do. We're going to drill. The whole 9 yards. So after that spiel, a bunch of guys left.
Shocking.
A bunch of guys left. But I think we probably had about 7 or 8 guys.
You had about that many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about Mr. Met? How did Mr. Met get in there?
Who was that? Who's Mr. Met?
Pickford.
Oh, Pickford? Pickford, Mr. Met. So Pickford, I picked him. I picked Pickford when he went to the tryouts. He was in seven.
Was it his big head? Did you see a guy with a big head? You said this guy's got to have some brains or something. What would you rather have, $1 million or Pickford's head full of nickels?
I tell you, I had a pretty wider range of guys. Like I took guys from Manhattan, I had guys from Queens, I took a bunch of guys from Brooklyn, and it was a great mix.
Tough Tony, because he was from Deer Park, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, a couple of guys from Deer Park.
Yeah.
We really had a nice mix, and the chemistry, it all kind of clicked, man.
No, you guys had a good mix.
You weeded some of the old 270 guys out. They had to go. They weren't on the page, right? They weren't on the
couple
same
of guys. And I tell you, we had one guy, and I won't even say his name. He was such a nice young man, but I don't know what it was. He had like 4 or 5 years on the job, maybe 4, maybe. And he was such a smart, talented young man. Like he was great. And I don't know what happened to him, man. I just said to him at one time, guys would tell me, Cap, this guy's taking early relief, and when a 1075 comes in, he's not getting on a rig. So I would call him in the office. I said, bro, what's going on? Like, do you realize that the opportunity that you have here? And then he said, nah, Cap, it's not working out. I'm gonna go back to where it came from.
Wait a minute. Is this the guy? Is this the guy that said to you, who took early relief one time and missed the job? Who said, I got my whole career to go to jobs, bro? Is that the same?
Something like that. So then I said, okay, so maybe this is not for you. That's fine. Yeah. Where would you like to go? I could probably get you anywhere. And he went back to his old company, which was a pretty slow place. And
my God. Was it?
He wound up going back and retired years later. Nice kid, though. I just didn't work out for him. That's all. But it was we had a great mix of people, and I loved it there, man. I was going to turn down the Chiefs promotion, man. I was
really?
on
you guys are going to a lot of work, man. You guys are going to a lot of work.
How long after you in '98? How long were you there? Only a couple of years, right? A few years.
Hold on.
2.5 years. I got promoted Battalion Chief in September 2000.
I thought it was longer than that. Wow.
Oh, that's Sully on the right. Is that Sullivan?
Sully.
That's Sully, Cecilia, Frank Lieb, and I think that's either Pickford or Smithwick. I can't tell. I'm not sure.
Stars in the head.
Sully turned out to be one of my favorite guys, even though he was always angry.
Who's that?
Mike Sullivan.
Angry guy.
Sully. Sully's the man, bro.
I love Sully.
One of my favorites. He was one of my favorites. And one of my favorites. He was a good guy.
And here you are after you got promoted to Bat Chief.
Wow.
Yeah, right. Yeah, soon there. I was working in SOC at the time. When my mustache was all black.
Wait, Pete, before we go there, I want to ask the Chief something. So I think you guys actually had it harder getting along with the first two companies than we did in 288, right? There was a little bit of
we had our growing pains.
Growing pains. Let's call it that. Yeah.
We had growing pains. So here's the thing, right? So we knew we were going to have some trouble with the trucks. You know, there were going to be some whatever. So whatever, we worked through it as best we could. But you know, I brought a lot of Brooklyn firefighters over, and you know, in Queens, the way the companies are spread out a little bit. Like if you're second due on a box, you know, you're second due, like, you know, because the companies are spread out. But we were turning out like we got to run. We're out the door,
Right.
And I think some of the local companies weren't used to that. Like, you know,
what did Hoppy say, Coobs?
What's that?
Hoppy used to say it's called aggressiveness. Get used to it.
Oh, dude, he did tell. He told all the companies. Yeah, I know what you guys do. Is like it's called aggressiveness. Get used to it.
Yeah, it was fun, and everybody got used to it. They did get used to it. And
Richardson Street, they must have loved you guys.
Oh man, they loved you.
I'll tell one quick story with Princeton Street. One quick story.
The Tigers.
So we're having our growing pains, if you will. Yeah.
I'm still pissed off.
So we're having the growing pains, and you know, Doug Sloan was my right-hand man in the company. He was the man, and he says, "Look, man, we're having these issues, blah 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 blah." I said, "Listen, if there's any problems with the companies, you got to let me know, man, so I could call the captain. Like I'll talk to the captain." So one Sunday morning, I come in for a day tour, and then like, "Cap, you know, this stuff is going on." And I said, "All right." So we do the roll call. Ray Seeley's driving me. We get on the rig. We go over. I said, "Let's go. We're going over." So we drive over. I knock on the door. It's a Sunday day tour, right at 10 o'clock. And I say, "Hey, you know, can you call the guys down in the offices?" So everybody comes down. I think they had a covering office in one of the companies, but whatever. The guys all come down. And I said, "Look," I says, "I'm here, like, I'm coming to you as a man. Like, let's kind of just knock it off. Let's just kind of try and get along." I give my whole spiel. So
you can act like a man.
Does anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions? Of course, one guy raises his hand, and he's a young guy, and he starts asking me questions. So Ray Seeley's working. He walks over. He's standing over the guy. The guy was a small guy. He says, "How long are you on the job?" So the kid was still, I think he might have been still on probation or just off probation. And Ray starts yelling at him, "Don't you say anything until you got first grade." You know, blah, blah, blah. He said, "All right, Ray, let's go. We got to get on the rig. Let's get out of here." So that kind of backfired. That didn't work out.
Yeah. Not a great plan. But all right, let's go. Moving on.
Well, we wound up getting along after a while. It was all good. You know,
were you relocated to them after when they were doing your quarters or something?
So no.
Oh, they relocated to you.
I was already gone. Years later, 126 was in with 270.
Right.
For a while when they were doing the floor.
Right.
Chief LaFamina took your spot, correct?
Yes, he did. Yes, he
came. That's a good spot.
I remember that, man. That seems like a million years ago.
Spot. Yeah. So it had to be pretty good though, because you guys were in the division, right? And you're cooking the meals for the division.
I'll tell you what. I told the guys when we first went there. I said, "Listen, a couple of things. We got to be really, really good at the hazmat stuff, because when they call us, and you know, we got to know what we're doing. Like, so we drilled on it a decent amount, because we don't want to look like, because if we're not good at the hazmat stuff, they're not going to use us at fires. So that kind of worked out. I said the second thing is we got to feed the chiefs. We got to take care of the chiefs. So
get the good cannolis.
We were drilling all the time, so we would eat late. And then I said, you know, after a while, if it wasn't a while, short while, I says, we got to eat early, man, because I don't want to feed the chief at 10 o'clock at night. It's not going to work out. So Joe Curry was in the division, Chief Curry. To this day, every time I see him a lot. He says, "You guys were some of the worst cooks I ever worked with." I said, "Yeah, we were, Chief. I'm sorry. You guys couldn't even make a meatloaf."
Oh, my God. That's classic.
Now, Pete, you can bring up the battalion chief.
Okay.
Battalion chief.
Well, there he is. Look at him. Hold on.
So, as I tell people all the time, I got promoted to battalion chief the last day of the list. So I was on the list. I took the test in 96. Right. So that list was 4 years. my list number, believe it or not, on the Chiefs list was 227.
227. Get out of here.
That was my list number.
That's your
So
number.
now, there's another situation where that list was moving and then it died. They weren't making promotions for quite some time. Then they started promoting a little. So they get up to around 200, a little over. I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'll make it. But I said, I don't know if I want it now. I'm in the squad. I'm loving life. I told my wife, I think I'm going to pass it up.
Like, what?
I says, I'll take the next one. I says, I'm loving it, man. It's awesome. And I had about 20 years on the job. But then after I thought about it, my son was my son was 7 years old, I guess, 7. He's my youngest. So I said, man, I guess I got to take it. So anyway, the promotion comes. They call me on a Wednesday. Say you're getting promoted Friday.
What?
Like, what? I said, what? So, yeah. So the list was to die Monday. I think.
Oh my God! You have no choice, right? You got nothing.
The list was dying Monday. So promoted 32 battalion chiefs the last day of the list.
Wow.
Holy shit.
So we get promoted, and they over promoted by like 25 people. So 7 people went to the field. The rest of us got divvied up with different administrative details. I wound up in headquarters. So now to that time, I had never done one day of light duty in my entire career. So I did some offline stuff or whatever, projects a little bit, but I never worked light duty, and I was never like on a long-term detail. So now I'm saying you're going to work for the chief of operations, who was Dan Nigro at the time. So I go to headquarters, and there's a group of us: Richie Blattis, Steve Posey, Ralph Fago, Jimmy Heel. There was John Roque, Bobby Spellman. We get assigned to Nigro, and some of us got different jobs, but 6 or 7 of us, they put us in this conference room in the back of the 7th floor where EMS is now. And we called it the think tank. The think tank. So we wind up being there for months, and we worked for Nigro. We did projects for Nigro.
Thinking.
Nothing happens.
So I guess we were there 6 or 7 months, and he released a couple of guys to the field. So now it's coming July. So I'm there since September. He calls us in his office one day. There's like 6 or 7 of us were sitting in his office, and he says, "All right, I'm gonna release you guys to the field." He says, "Where do you guys want to go?" So he goes around the circle. I happen to be the last guy. So at that point, now I'm going to go to Manhattan. I said, I'm going to Manhattan.
First division, here you come.
I'm going to Manhattan. So I tell him, 1st or 3rd division, it doesn't matter, either one. He says, listen, he says, everybody else went already, they were going where they were going. He says, come back and see me after lunch. I got another opportunity for you that I'd like you to consider. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, I don't know, what could it be? Where could I be going? I come back after lunch. He says, all right, look. He says, I need somebody. I'm looking for a young, experienced chief, young, experienced officer who's a chief now to go out to Queens. I got a guy that's been in the spot for a year, and I want to replace him. I told him after a year that he could go wherever he wants. He says, so would you do that for me? So I'm going to tell the guy, no. I'm like, no. Operations. I'm like, yeah, chief, whatever you need. Okay, you're going to the 5-3 battalion. So I said, okay. He says, you're not covered. You're getting assigned on the order, assigned. I'm like, really? He says, yeah. So I went. So who did I replace? I replaced Richie Bienenstein, who winds up being my 24 partner in the 3-8 battalion when I went to the 3-8. He went to the 3-8. So I go to the 5-3 July.
And who are they in with, Chief? Where are they?
They're with 326 and 160.
The Taj Mahal.
On Springfield Boulevard.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So now, it's a home run commute for me from home. I go there. I'm there a couple of months. I'm enjoying it. Great people, great bunch of people. The aides were good. I was going around to the companies. We were drilling. not much activity out there, but whatever. So I'm there, and I'm like, I said, wow, this is a pretty good gig, man. I said, I'm like, half hour from home. It's just, you get out of the Chief's car, the office door was right there. I'm like, this is pretty nice, So I'm there for the 2 months, and 9/11 happened.
Oof.
I was off that day. I was home. We all got recalled or whatever, right? And I reported to work in the firehouse, but the battalion was out. They got relocated to Manhattan. And I was in the firehouse the whole day. I had no Chief's car, no nothing. And the companies were out and about. And that night, they wound up having volley rigs in the firehouse. And the battalion didn't come back till way, way late at night. The next morning, I get up, September 12th, and a fax comes in the fax machine. Richardson, detailed to SOC, report to Special Operations. So I grab my gear, throw it in my car, I drive to Roosevelt Island. And then from there, that day, September 12th, I went down to the site, and then I wound up being there working in SOC for the next 15 months. And John Norman becomes the chief of SOC, does a great job, rebuilding SOC. John, Don Hay came there. I got detailed there because, Chiefs got killed, right? John Moran, John Palillo, Charlie Casper. Right. And so I was there. So we had tours where we had two guys working in the car. One guy would work at the site. One guy would stay in the car. So it was it was crazy for a few months. And then later in 2002, I had this thing I wanted to be a chief. I wanted to be in a regular battalion. I wanted to go to fires. I wanted to stand in front of a building and be a chief, because in SOC, you're never the incident commander, as a SOC chief, right? So I was like, I felt like I was missing something, right? And I enjoyed SOC so much. I loved all the guys. I loved everybody. And it was an honor to be part of that rebuilding process, which certainly continued for many years. But John Norman was a home run to work for. And, he asked me, Don Hay wound up staying. Stevie Rossweiler came over. He took my place at the site when I was working at the site, and he stayed. And then 2002, and the end of the year, I said to John Norman, I said, I think I'm going to go out to a battalion. So, he had asked me to stay, and I said, John, I want to go out and be a chief. I want to be a fire chief. So at that point, I was like, I ain't going to Manhattan now. I'm going to Brooklyn. So I put in for the 15th Division, and I get assigned covering in the 3A Battalion.
Oh, how does that happen again, Ruffy?
Oh,
right,
and then
back to where you started as a captain, right?
An order comes out shortly thereafter, and I get assigned to the 3A in January of 03.
Which is in 234's quarters where you were captain.
234, 123, yep.
Wow.
And that area, that firehouse, that whole neighborhood was a great place to learn your craft as a firefighter, as an officer, as a chief officer. And that's where I learned what I learned, because of the people around there and the people that I worked with. So I was blessed, man. So, I wound up being there. I was there for a little over 11 years, almost 12 years.
Wow.
Oh, shit. I didn't know you were there that long.
Yeah, I got made in 2014. So it was 11. It was 11.
Wow. I did not know.
January would have been 12 years, January of 2015. So
I probably had to run into you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Probably had to run into jobs together.
You didn't poke a finger.
Did I hook you up? Did I hook you up at all?
Did you hear what Kev said? You didn't poke a finger at him, did you?
Well, what I just realized too? I could have been your captains. I might have been your captain.
That's right. Yeah.
If I didn't go to 270, I went to 288. You guys got Dennis Murphy wound up becoming the captain, right?
Yes,
Heavy D. Yes.
Yep. Heavy D.
Not a good man.
That's my captain. My captain.
He's the man.
That's my guy.
Wonderful guy.
Told me a lot.
Yeah. So my time in the 3-8 was phenomenal, and I had no intention on studying for deputy. I took 2 deputies tests and I failed because I didn't really study hard. And 2000 13, I think, 2013, maybe 12. Frank Lee says, we're starting up our study group for deputy. I'm like, bro, I'm out.
Wait a minute. The guy that you brought over to 270 is telling you we're going to start up a
No, now he's a battalion chief now.
Yes, the 4-6,
he got
right?
promoted and he went fast. He hit the test right.
He hit all the tests after 9/11. Perfect, right?
So he says, no, just come to the first meeting, bro. Just come. I says, I don't know, bro. I whatever, 33 and a half years at that point. I'm like, I don't have it in me. All right, I'll come to the meeting. So I go to the meeting and I got my milk crate with my books.
You don't have to do that anymore, Chief, by the way.
Right. So all the young guys come with this. And so now they're breaking my balls. And so I'm like, all right, good. I'm in. Let's go. All right, let's do it. So it was me, Frank, Gladys, Joe Jordan,
Oh shit.
Jimmy Kane, and Richie Wiley. That was the study group.
Wow.
So we take the test, and I wound up doing pretty good. So I wind up number 1 on the deputies list.
Hey, pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah.
So I got promoted the last day on the battalion chief's list, and I'm number 1 on the deputies list. But I had seniority. I wrote pretty good on the test. So now I'm like, wow, holy shit, I'm going to be a deputy. Oh my God. So we had a good study group, man. So I wound up doing okay. Gladys is acting chief operations. Frank is acting chief of training right now.
Yep.
Joe John's the chief of fire prevention. Jimmy Kane would have been a staff chief. He got promoted to deputy and then retired.
Yeah.
He had a heart problem. And Richie Wiley turned the deputy's promotion down. We had a good study group. It was cool.
I'd say number 1 on the list.
Frank was the motivating factor, man.
Francis.
He's going to be chief of department. He said he's not staying long enough.
He could very well be, man. He's a sharp kid.
He is.
I was so proud of him, and I'm proud to know him and all of those guys. Just great friends, and we all did okay for ourselves. And Gladys was in my probie class too.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Isn't that amazing how you guys crossed paths? Crazy. All those years ago, and where it ends up is crazy, right?
It's why, and even with Gladys. So we're in probie school together, but I didn't really know him in probie school. He goes to 48 engine in the Bronx. I go to 227, and we don't really see each other until 20 years later. We got promoted to battalion chief the same day.
Crazy.
Wow.
And then we wind up working together in headquarters, and then we became friends. And then here we are 20 years later, 20-something years later.
You know what's even crazier, Roof? He winds up as a deputy chief in Division 15. I don't know how that happens.
That you mean in the Bronx? Oh, no, not the Bronx. That's in Upper Manhattan. No, not Manhattan.
No.
I don't know how that happened.
Oh, no, I don't know where it is. Staten Island.
I got to be honest with you. I was shocked when I got that spot.
Hold on. That's your wife?
That's my beautiful wife of 40 years.
Good for you. You married up too.
Julie and Augusta. The love of my life.
Another guy that married up. Great job, Chief.
The love of my life.
Wow.
Tiny little thing. And that's
Is that the whole family? Is that the whole family?
My daughter Jessica's to the left of my wife. That's my son-in-law Tom. I think I like him. And and then my daughter Jenna is on the right. She's now married. She wasn't married then.
Wow.
And then my son, I don't know where he was that day, but he might have been working. My son, you know what? Where did my son live then? My son might have been down in Florida then. He was living in Florida. But my son is an EMT now. He's an EMT on the job.
Oh, 1 boy and 2 girls.
Chief, he actually sent me a message on Instagram this morning. He was very glad that you were coming on. Yeah, he's just waiting, right? I guess to get on.
He's just waiting for the promotional, man. He's waiting to see.
I don't know where he's going to wind up, man. He'll probably wind up in Staten Island.
I don't know. Let me guess where he's going to go.
He's going to the hot corner in Staten Island.
Yeah. You're going to put him right in the squad.
Yeah.
The cool curve is going to work.
I'm like everybody says.
I'm smart.
Oh man.
Well, yeah. So that was it, man. And then so I'm in the 15th division. That was a great assignment, working with great chiefs there. working with Chief Mike Agello, who's now the Manhattan Borough Commander. He was the division commander. Great guy to learn from. Smart, really bright. Dave Jakubowski, remember Chief
Jack?
Jakubowski?
Yeah, he always used to say,
Jack
Frano, how come every time I see you, you're unshaven? I said, I'm Italian. I shaved this morning.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But he used to break my balls, but I have to say, man, so he would rub guys a little bit sometimes, but
he's a good chief.
He was a good. I liked working with him.
He's a good chief, and he's a good man.
If you gave it back to him a little bit, he was.
He liked
good.
that.
Yeah, he did like it. I think he liked
and then
it.
Stevie Morrow. Stevie Morrow was there. He's another superstar, you know. So I loved my time there. That was great.
Butler was there too, right? Was Butler there at that? Or
Butler wasn't there then. No, he was gone already. He had gone already. So those were the guys that were there when I got there, and and then so I'm thinking, all right, now 2015. So now I'm coming up on 35 years in the job. I'm like, all right, this is good. I'm at the time, I guess so I'm 56 years old. I'm like 57 years old, and I'm like 56. And I'm like, I'm going to write it out, man. I could do another 9 years, no problem. You know? And then in, I guess right after the January, February 2017, I run into Jimmy Hodgins, Chief Hodgins. He was the chief of training.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, Mike Agello actually mentioned to me at 283's company dinner dance. He says, hey, you think you would be interested in being the chief of the fire academy? Because at the time, unfortunately, Chief Andy DiPadova got sick. He winds up with cancer. So he has to basically go on light duty, and he was never to return. You know, he's doing fine or doing okay now. You know, he's doing okay. But I'm like, I never gave it any thought, really. You know, I did my little gig at the Rock teaching the Chiefs course and all of that. So then Jimmy Hodgins follows up with a phone call shortly after. He says, hey, you know, just think about it, you know. I got a guy here now, but I don't know if he's going to stay, blah, 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 blah. So in April of 2017.
Yep.
I'm in the gym. I'm working out in the gym. My phone rings, and I don't pick it up because I don't know the number. So I'm like, I finished working out. I played in voicemail. Tom, Dan Nigro, give me a call when you get a chance. So I sit down in the locker room in the gym, and I call him and I say, hey, boss, what's up? He says, listen. He says, I want to know if you might be interested in coming to staff. He says, I'm looking for a couple of guys. He says, I need a guy for the fire academy. I'm like, I said, I'll get back to you tomorrow.
That's your patented line.
It's working out well for him.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So then I called him back, and I always remembered, you know, guys like Pete Gansey and others would always say, like, there comes a point in the job when the job's been so good to you to give back, right? So I'm saying I got 35 years, 37 now, 36 and a half. I'm like,
it's a pretty good run.
I guess I could give back now, right? You know? So I talked to my wife, and then I called him back the next day, and then I wound up going on a detail as a deputy, as the acting chief of the fire academy at some point. And then in June, I get promoted to DAC, June of 17. And I was working for Jimmy Hodgins, another one of the best people I ever met on this job, just a super, super nice person, just smart, unbelievable work ethic, great chief, great chief of training. You know, he worked hard, man, that guy. But then he decided in 2018, suddenly, you know, he had a couple of injuries, I guess, and he winds up leaving. Now, 2018, I'm only the chief of the fire academy for less than a year. So I'm into 2018. I forget when I got promoted to assistant chief officially. But Chief Leonard at the time says, I'm going to make you acting chief of training. I'm like, all right, you know. So now I'm the acting chief of training, and I bring over John Buckeye. John Buckeye came over as the acting chief of the fire academy, and they promote me to chief of training, give me the 3rd star. John gets promoted to 2-star to be the chief of the fire academy, and another unbelievable guy. You guys know John.
136. Yep.
Just a
136.
fabulous fire officer, and just another one of the smartest guys I've met on the job. Just a bright guy. Man, he's smart. So now I'm in training. I'm thinking things are going good. I'm like, whatever, I'm good.
Gotta slap another star on you.
No, I'm in training, and
The phone rings. It's like,
Life is
Tommy, we got another star for you.
so now, in 2019, Chief Leonard, left the job early 2019. So now, John Sudnick becomes chief of department, and Commissioner Nigro calls me in his office, and he says, "I need you to be the chief of operations." I'm like, "What?" I said,
What?
I says, I like training, man. I really am loving it. I love to stay in training. And he says, "Well, I really need you to do this." I'm like, "I'd really rather stay in training." And he says, "I really need you to do this."
But he says it
So I'm
twice.
like,
That's
well, I'm
it.
going to tell the guy. So yeah, right. So I said, all right. So then I got promoted to chief operations in February of 2019.
19.
What's kind of happening really fast all of a sudden?
Unbelievable. It was unbelievable. Years ago in the job, you could talk to some of the old timers. When people made staff was usually 3, 4, 5 years, and then guys would retire. But after 9/11, that all changed. A lot of the guys that went to staff stayed on staff for a very long time. Tommy Galvin was on staff forever. Eddie Kilduff was on staff for a long. All those guys that rebuilt the department, they all were on staff for a long time, and they did an unbelievable job rebuilding the department. And then, when I got on staff, I call myself a late bloomer. I got on staff with 36 and a half. And I told the commissioner when he asked me to be chief operations, I said, "Look, I'm going to do it." But I said, "I'm being honest with you. I'm probably going to retire right around my 40th anniversary," which was the following year, 2020. So I said, "Look, I'm good with that." He says, "If you do this job for a year and a half to 2 years," he said, "and off you go." So, 2020 comes, and we go to the pandemic, the civil unrest, the vaccine mandate. I'm like, what else could go wrong, And
I could have been out fishing right now.
listen,
But a good thing I'm giving back.
one thing, but I'll tell you what. The one thing I'll tell you, man, and being very, very serious about this is that if it were not for the people in this job out in the field that were doing it and getting it done every single day, a lot of people got sick. We went through a lot, and over that year and a half, and if it weren't for the firefighters, the EMTs, the paramedics coming to work, doing their job, we, in headquarters, we were managing things,
Right.
or it was the folks in the field that were doing it. They made us look good, and at the end of the story, right? And so, when we got through all of that, I got to be honest, after at the end of 2020, I was kind of beat up, man. I was like, oh my God, So now I have my 40 years. We go into 2021, and I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, I said, I think I'm going to retire. So I finally make a decision. I tell my wife, I'm going to go tell the commissioner I'm going to retire in April. So I go to see him in February, end of February. I said, look, I'm going to retire. I told you after my 40th anniversary, I was going to think about it. I'm going to retire. So he says, so as it turns out, John Sudnick, winds up getting hurt. And he says, well, listen, he says, I'll tell you what. He says, I'm going to make you acting chief of the department. He says, so that would be kind of cool if you retire as the acting chief of the department. I said, no, that'd be beautiful, like awesome, but you should think about maybe you could stay, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So, April comes and April goes. And then in June, I kind of felt bad, like kind of just leaving in the middle of all of that, like, right? Because now we got an acting chief of operations, Jack Hodgins, who was a good buddy of mine. Worked with him in the 3A Battalion. And then, June comes and he says, I'm going to promote you. How do you turn that down? Like, how do you say, no, I don't want to be chief of department. Like,
turn it down.
Yeah, I said 40 years, but I don't know. Maybe I'll pass on that.
Well, it was the honor of a lifetime, man. Like, it was like a fairy tale. Like, I don't know. It was crazy. And in a million years, like never in a million years. Let me tell you, the chiefs that I worked with on the staff, from the time I went on the staff, just so talented, so dedicated, workhorses, man. And wasn't a bad guy in the bunch. And EMS chiefs, too, work their asses off, working hard every single day. That is a tough job.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Bureau of EMS, man. And our paramedics and EMTs, man. And I'm biased, of course, my son's there, but they work really, really hard. I'll tell you what, the thrill of my tenure as the chief of department, and I was determined, and you guys probably know the story. When I made chief of department, I was like, even when I was in operations, I always felt like, you guys know this, when you're in the firehouse all the years, you're in the firehouse, you're sitting around the kitchen, you say, those guys in headquarters, they don't know what. They don't know.
So
nothing.
detached from everything.
They forget they were firemen, those guys.
So I was determined not to be that guy. So when I was in operations, I visited firehouses frequently. Like, I went out a lot. And I asked the staff to do the same. So we had a policy. Every tour, the citywide chief had to go to a firehouse, had to go visit a firehouse or more. And they did. So every night and every tour in the city for the last 2.5 to 3 years, there was somebody with stars in a firehouse almost every single night. Because I wanted to know what was going on in the field. We had to. So when I made chief of department, I'm like, wow, chief of operations is a really, really busy job. Because operations is the job, like, right? That's the job. You're managing 11,000 people, in the field. When I made chief of department, my schedule kind of cleared up a lot. I didn't have
You're like this. Yeah, you chief of operations, go take care of that. You go take care of this over here.
Wait. Yeah. So I was like lunch with Nigro at 12. Hold on.
I got time on my hands here, so I got to figure out something. I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out and I'm going to ride in the field. So every Friday for the first 4 months, because then we wound up dealing with the vaccine mandate, and we were kind of managing that. But the first 4 months I was chief of department, I cleared my schedule every Friday. Every Friday morning, I would start off at an EMS station. I would get there, I'd bring some donuts or whatever, cake or whatever. I'd go have coffee with the troops. Now their schedules overlap. It's different. It's not the same as a firehouse roll call and all of that. But they have roll calls and they talk to the troops before they go out to the field. And then I would go and I'd say, all right, who am I going with? And I would get on a bus with the kids. I rode on the ambulances with the kids.
Wow.
And I got to tell you, man, what a pleasure, man. Just to talk to them, to listen to what they had to say and understand, how difficult their job really is. And they couldn't have been nicer, man. And believe me, I had some frank discussions with people. But it was very, very eye-opening, and it was an honor to be out there with them. So then I would do that in the morning. And, of course, I would schedule lunch in a firehouse.
Why not?
Go to the firehouse for lunch.
Yep.
And then while I was at the firehouse, I would take some runs in with the rigs. So, like in the engines, most of the engines were 4 firefighters.
Free seat.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, yeah, and then rode with a couple of battalions, but that was so much fun. And it was such a pleasure to go out there.
I'm sure the guys love that. Guys and girls love that, man.
It was so much fun. I'm in the back of the rig one day in an engine, and we're going to a box, first through phone alarm. And I'm sitting across from a kid, young guy, about a year in the job.
Doing it wrong.
Former Marine. He's got the nozzle. Nice. So we're going to this box, first through phone for fire. So I say to the kid, you know how this works, right, bro? He says, what? I says, when we get there, you stretch to the front door. You just give me the line. He said, well, this is what he said. This is what he said. That ain't happening, Chief. And I said, that's what I want to hear.
That's what I want
to hear.
Don't give your tools to nobody.
I got to tell you, when we interviewed you at The Rock, and, I was like, oh, my God, like the pucker factor, we're interviewing the chief of department. I was kind of bugging out a little bit. But then you told us about all this, right? On that video, as a matter of fact, that you rode with everyone and everything like that. And I said, man, this guy leads from the front. He's salt of the earth fireman. Yeah. And I'll tell you something, that really had to have had a morale impact on the entire FDNY, because word gets out on something like that. Did you hear? Chief of department wanted the nozzle. I didn't want to give it to him. And then and he was riding the engine. And can you believe it? Do you think that should almost be like written somewhere? Like that's something that guys need to do? Or do you think it's just something that comes from you and it's hard to replicate that unless you're the guy who does that kind of thing?
Well, I think that is something that certainly is something everybody that's in those positions should think about. But like for me, man, it really did come from the heart, man. I just wanted to be out there talking to the people doing the job, both on fire and EMS. And I went on a few EMS runs with guys on the ambulances. I went on the ambulances.
That's great.
I was an EMT for a long time, so I know the business. So I was in there with them. We were doing stuff. I was carrying stuff, and they were like, "Holy shit, this guy's unbelievable." Yeah. But I wasn't doing it. I was only doing it because I really, particularly with EMS, because I didn't know enough about it. And I'll be honest, I was embarrassed that I was chief operations for 2.5 years, and I had a great relationship with the chief of EMS operations, Lillian Bonsignor, but I didn't know enough about EMS. And then we were going through the pandemic. It was a lot to manage. It was a lot to process. So when I became chief of department, I said, I got to know more about this, man, because they report to me. EMS reports to the chief of department. So I said, I got to know what the hell's going on out there. So that was really a big reason why I did that. But then as far as the firefighters were concerned, man, I just wanted to get out there and kind of just refresh myself, I
would have loved that if the chief would have showed up like that.
Oh yeah,
it was great. It was.
Like Petey said, that is a morale issue, because sometimes you feel like, you're not, guys have concerns and it doesn't get filtered up, So here's a perfect way, like you said, you sit at the table, you have a cup of coffee, you have a meal, and listen, not everything's going to get taken care of like this, but at least it's something that if you start going to firehouse after firehouse and you hear the same thing, that's an issue.
One of the things we learned through the pandemic, we learned how to use these platforms more. Like we did these Zoom meetings, we were using another platform, and we were talking to the field on a regular basis. I was able to talk to an entire borough of on-duty firefighters, obviously if they were going on runs, but I did regular scheduled meetings with the field during the pandemic just to kind of let them know what was going on.
Lee was telling us about that.
It was great, man. It was really good. And listen, we weren't going to get everything right, and we didn't get everything right. In fact, we screwed up a lot of things, but we learned a lot, and we just wanted the field to know that we were working hard on their behalf to make sure that we were doing the right thing by the field.
Yeah, but I bet you that changed your future response. You know what I mean? Like what your protocols were for the future, coming up. So maybe you didn't get it right, but if you learned, and you set yourself up for the future, because I have this feeling that this isn't going to be the last pandemic we ever see. Right. It was, the first one, but not the last. So, maybe you were a big instrumental part in changing the way you guys do things, especially in the modern tech age like this. It's incredible.
I got to be honest with you. My executive officer, his name was Dave Morkel, Battalion Chief. He's since retired as well. One of the finest individuals I ever worked with. I met him when I worked in training, and he stayed with me in operations and chief of department. And he was the guy. He came up with some of these ideas, and I said, "Oh man, I didn't even think of that. That's awesome." And we started to set these things up. We had a good group of people in headquarters. I don't know if you guys know Mark Guerra, Battalion Chief Mark Guerra. He was the commissioner's executive officer. Another individual who helped us so much to work through all of the different issues that we had to work through during the pandemic. And the headquarters civilian staff, even though a lot of them during the pandemic were working from home, but a lot of the key people, we couldn't have done what we did without the entire FDNY team, coming together. And we had our differences. I'm not going to say everybody got along all the time. We had our differences, but 17,000 member organization. You're not going to get everybody on the same page all the time.
No doubt. We talked about that with Chief Nigro as well.
Yeah, right, exactly, right. So, I think we did okay during that time period, and I hope the department is better for it, like you say, in the future, moving forward. And I think we learned a tremendous amount, and I learned a lot about myself, all through that time period. I learned a lot about myself, man, and it's.
I always tell my kids, if you learn, you never lose.
That's right.
If you learn, you never lose. So that's amazing.
Chief, just to let you know, Chief Daly was in the chat. He was saying, talking very highly of you, and also Keith Nicolello texted me. He wanted me to say hello.
My man, Keith Nicolello. He texts me all the time, and he ends the text all the time. 11/22/80.
That's right. You guys came out together.
Yeah, he was great.
Chief, I wanted to ask you how far did your father get to see you go? Like, when did he pass? Did he see you?
So my father died, unfortunately, in 1997. So I was a captain. I was the captain at 234. But as it stands, my father's father, my grandfather, was on the job.
Was he?
But I never met my grandfather. He died before I was born. But my grandfather was on the job 1931 to 1954.
Wow.
So he worked at a bunch of different companies. So when I was working at the Rock, we had the library there.
Yep.
I said, I got to try and get my grandfather's history on the job. So Danny May, the librarian out there, he put it together for me. He gave me a nice book with all the orders that my grandfather was on. There was a couple of newspaper articles, my grandfather, his personnel record. So when it was ready to be picked up, he calls me up and says, "Hey, Chief," he says, "I got the book." So I go to pick it up, and he says, "Listen, are you sure you want to see this?" I says, "Yeah, why?" So as it turns out, my grandfather got in some trouble when he was a firefighter. He was a firefighter. He got in trouble for little drinking. But my grandfather died young, in his mid-50s, right at 2 years after he retired. But my father worked for 41 years for Con Ed. He gets cancer. He retires. He dies a year later. So my mom saw me get through Battalion Chief because she died in 2010. So, but yeah, my father would have been very proud. Hopefully,
oh my God, can you imagine, Chief of Department? Holy shit!
Or imagine your grandfather, right, who was in a little bit of trouble, not saying anything.
Yeah.
And he hears his grandkids, the chief of the FDNY. Oh my God!
Well, what's so cool too is that I started as a volunteer firefighter, 18 years old, man. That's where I started. So I had my retirement party a couple of weeks ago, and I had it in the firehouse in Deer Park. And my wife says, "You're not going to have one of those big things?" I said, "No. I want to keep it simple. I want it to be a fireman's party where anybody could come, just come, have a beer, take up." As it turns out, I screwed up and I scheduled it the same day as the hockey game. But I started it at 3:00. and I went to 9 o'clock. So guys came and went. We had a pretty good crowd. It was actually a really good crowd.
Yeah, Louis, our invitation must have got lost.
I'm sorry,
You're lost. I don't know what
I
happened.
thought the word was out.
Ah.
But we had a great day, and it was exactly what I wanted. It was where I started, it's where I finished, and the guys in Deer Park, I'm so proud of them. Somebody like one of the things we don't do good in the fire service, I think sometimes we're all guilty of it. We don't appreciate the past. We don't appreciate history, and all of these folks that came before us, like right, the fire department is 157 years old, but I always tell probies, you should know the history of the job, know where the job started, how the job started. And I tell the same thing in the volunteers. You got to know your history. All these guys that started these small town fire departments, they were great, smart guys and gals. They got these things up and running, and look at them now. Like, you walk into some of these firehouses, and they're beautiful. So anyway, I know we went really long. I apologize.
No, Chief, don't worry about it.
I wanted to ask you one more question. Like, was there ever a time you woke up and you're like, holy shit, I'm the chief of department, man?
Oh, yeah, bro. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah? Absolutely right. No, I mean, man, listen, all I wanted to do was be a firefighter, man. That's all I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be a firefighter from the time I was a teenager, especially when I started meeting all these people, and to achieve the success that I did. And again, timing is everything, as you know, in this job. Like, just circumstances happen, and I often would tell people, well, they got to pick some moron to take the job. So I says, this always on the list.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not.
But no, really, it was. Oh my God, yeah, I did wake up many times like that, especially in the beginning. The first few weeks. I can't believe this. This is crazy. Yeah. But I tell you what, people say, "How you doing?" Since you left. I said, the day after my last day. They gave me a beautiful walkout. It was really unbelievable.
Yeah, we had it on. We had it on the show.
Yep.
It was unreal. So the next day, or I go to bed that night, and I'm like, geez, I wonder how I'm going to feel tomorrow. Am I going to feel sad? Am I going to be mad? And I'm going to be glad? So I get up in the morning. So I would normally get up around 4:30 in the morning, go to work. Instead, I got up at 7 that day. I get up. I go make a cup of coffee. I'm walking around the house. I throw the news on. I'm like, I think I'm good.
Listen, when you know.
Right? Yeah, man. What do you always say?
Chief Norman said, as Vinny Dunn called it was a magic carpet ride.
Oh, yeah, man. Yep.
That it was, man.
I don't believe in mistakes, and I don't know who the chief of department was before you, because I'm not versed on fire history. I'm just a schmuck civilian. But I'm sure they picked you for a reason, sir. You're absolutely one of my top favorite guests. You're just a salt of the earth guy, and I'm just so glad we had you on. So we really appreciate you being on the show tonight, sir.
Yeah, the guy before me, his name was John Sudnick. And there's one of those guys, John Sudnick. He was on the staff 13 years, 14 years, long time.
Yeah, man. He was Queensboro commander for a while too, right?
Yeah, he gave a lot to the job. Another really bright guy, and I learned a lot from him as well. Just a smart man.
Who's in there now, Chief?
So Jack Hodgins is now the acting chief of department.
Oh.
He was my chief of operations.
Maybe he'll get the phone call like this. Yeah, take another star.
So check this out, man. So Jack Hodgins. So Eddie Kilduff was from the 3-8 Battalion. I was from the 3-8 Battalion. Jack Hodgins is from the 3-8 Battalion. Not too shabby, right?
Not too shabby. 3-8 Battalion.
Not too bad, right?
Oh man! Well,
Kilduff. That's the guy who told you call him Ed, right, Ruff?
Yeah, he said, Louis, you can call me Ed. I'm like,
okay.
No,
Chief. Yeah.
I'm a 53-year-old man, and I'm retired, and I'm still calling the man.
I see Eddie on the golf course. I play in this club, the Emeralds, out here. For a bunch of active and retired fighters. I see him all the time. I still call him Chief.
Yeah.
I'll send you some
we're going to see you. We're going to see you at Fogo de Chao. That's where we're going to see you, fella.
Nice.
I'll look you guys up, man.
I have your number. I'm going to call you. No doubt. We're going out to dinner on Roofy. Yep.
I'll be in Greece. Sorry.
Wow.
What a life.
What a great show. Yeah.
What do you think,
I think it's that time, bro.
I think it's also that time. And ladies and gentlemen, I have a good feeling about this one. This is going to be time for The old school tip of the day. Take it away, Chief.
So, I always like to talk to the young people coming up in the fire service and EMS service. So, I got a couple of things I'd like to say. And these are tips that people gave me that kind of worked for me in my career. First and foremost, I mentioned it before. Know the history of your department, know the history of your unit, know it and appreciate it. Appreciate the senior firefighters, EMTs, paramedics that you work with. If somebody is trying to tell you something or show you something, to teach you something, an old timer said to me years ago, don't ever, ever say to them, thank you, I know that. They'll never help you again. Just be respectful, take it in, and learn. Maybe you'll learn something new. Secondly, the fire and EMS service is, it's not just a job, right? We've heard this before. You've heard this before. It's not just a job. This is what we would all term as a vocation. It's a commitment. It's a commitment to something bigger than yourself. And take that and appreciate that and respect that, and you'll be better off for it. And so will your department, your company, and your fellow firefighters and EMS workers, right? So the fire service in particular, but EMS is a tough job too. Being a firefighter is dangerous and it's dirty. Don't let anybody ever tell you that it's not. It's a dangerous and a dirty business. Being an EMT or paramedic could be ugly, can be nasty, can be a dirty business as well. So all the benefits of these jobs, the people are the biggest benefit of these types of jobs. The people that you work with, the salt of the earth, as has been mentioned earlier, best people on the face of the earth that I worked with in my 41 and a half years. And I wouldn't change a thing. I don't have any regrets. So learn your history. Become a student of the job. I say that a lot. Be a student of the business. There are so many resources today between online platforms, magazines, books. Take advantage. Learn as much as you can about this business. Every day you go to work, whether you're a volunteer firefighter, a career firefighter, but every day you're going into the firehouse. Every day I went to work when I was out in the field, every single day I was on my way to work. In my mind, my mindset was, I'm going to a fire today. I was preparing myself to go to work. If it's EMS work, you go to work and you say, I'm going to work to save somebody's life today. I'm going to work. I hope I get something good, because that's how you stay sharp. And lastly, my last piece of advice, or my last tip of the day, is appreciate every single day that you have in this business, because many of my friends were hurt and suddenly had to leave the job much sooner than they wanted to. So every day you go to work, appreciate it. Appreciate those that you work with and for, and try and make them better. And they should be trying to make you better. So pass it on. Be stewards of the business. Take care of the business. Take care of the firehouse. Take care of the EMS station. It's the future. Take care of the future. Thank you.
Great job, Chief. Great show. Great career. Great stories.
Where are we going from here?
I don't know. Where do we go from here?
On this last episode of the old school of the Gettin Salty Experience podcast, we've decided to retire ourselves.
I'm gonna have coffee tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Well, actually, we will be away for 2 weeks.
But we have stuff.
We did put some stuff in a can the other day. Me, Pete, and Lou. So we'll be there on. Well, I think we have every show
every
filled, right?
every show for the next 2 weeks, every Monday and Thursday is filled. This coming Monday, we have our episode 2 of the best old school tips of the day, followed by a Cocklofts and Cocktails full episode, fresh, ready to go on Thursday. And then the same thing the following week. We'll be back live again on Monday, the 27th.
Yeah, I don't know where we go from here, Chief. Best show possibly ever. I appreciate you
Chief.
coming on. His phone is probably blowing up now. I love it.
Yep. Chief's got no time anymore. He's like, listen, I got
I gotta
can't.
go. Hold on a minute.
I'm
Yeah.
It was fun, man. It was an honor to be here, man. It really was.
Please.
You guys embody what the fire service and what this is all about, man. Again, about the people passing on information, the guests that you bring on, just to pass it on, man. That's awesome.
Chief, I run from fires. You know what I'm saying?
He does. He ain't lying. He ain't lying.
I never ran from a fire, but I got awfully scared once.
Yeah.
He knocked over a couple of
scary,
ladies with
bro.
walkers.
Scary.
Yes.
Oh my
All
God,
right.
Chief! You call these guys, and there's like three apparatus out two doors down from my house while I'm selling it. I call them in a bit of a panic, and they'll never let me live it down.
No,
you know what I mean?
never happening. Nope.
Yeah.
Good stuff,
All right.
man.
All
You
right.
got
God bless you guys.
Thank you, Chief.
God
so
bless
much.
you, Chief.
Appreciate you. We're honored.
I'll see you upstate next week, guys.
We will be there. I'll go to Chow. We'll be there next week.
Chief,
Sounds
you
good,
know what?
brother.
They're already calling for a part 2, but I say we got to have you back on in another capacity. Would you ever come back?
Absolutely.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
We have a new segment coming up called Random Thoughts. That was actually it was something that the Captain 111 did. Captain Brennan did.
Yeah, Tommy Brennan,
Yes, we're bringing it back. Our first episode is going to be with Dennis Murphy and Hank Millay, but we will have on guys like Chief Richardson here and some other guys on Random Thoughts.
Yep. What's the concept, Kev? We throw out an overall.
There's probably upwards of 10 ideas, and guys get to give their random thoughts on this idea, whatever it is. So it's educational.
Like a round robin.
Like a round robin.
Yep.
That's what happens when you wear a tie.
Oh, you get that. You have any shout outs, Ruffy? Any shout outs?
I don't have anything, brother.
I got one. Pete, throw that up there.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Hold on. I got this. And thank you, the Rev. Thank you so much for your kind donation.
Rev, that's craziness. So anyway, here we go. This is Chief Steve. You all know him as No White Sox. He is actually the senior man on the job right now.
Man.
I don't know how long that'll last, but the two guys ahead of him are retired. That puts Chief Steve as the senior man on the FDNY right now. So shout outs to my brother. Good job by him. I don't know how that'll last. Like that title is a short-lived title because there's somebody right behind you and you're going to retire soon. So shout out to Chief Steve, senior man on the FDNY. Good job.
Yeah, nice work.
Awesome,
I feel another Chief Steve song coming on soon.
We do have a Chief Steve shirt coming out soon.
Yeah. And the puppet's we got to get the puppet on a green screen for the next song and go big. You know what I mean?
We'll go big. No doubt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And we will see you up in Syracuse. So you guys that want to come out and see us at the New York State Chief Show. And the following week, we'll be up in Worcester. For the New England Chief Steve Show, the New England Chief Show. But we will be pounding them down and eat. I will be getting the meat sweats when we take the chief. We take the chief out to Fogo to Chow, bro. You ain't lying, bro. Last time, right, Ruffy? I got the meat.
Oh my God, I was
eating so much meat.
I'm like, dude, the guy was coming over. He was coming over for filet mignon. I'm like, nah, dude, I can't eat anymore, bro. I can't eat anymore.
Give it to me. I had the meat sweats. It was pouring down my face, bro. But we'll get the chief out.
We're gonna have a good time.
Yes.
God bless.
All right, Pete, take it out, buddy.
All right, real quick, guys. Before I take us all out, thank you all for being on the ride with us. 100 episodes, but guys, this is only the beginning. This is the very, very beginning. So I'm just glad that you guys are just getting to know us, and we're all getting to know you. Also, guys, we make a lot of jokes on this show. All right, don't take it personal. We just fool around. None of us are on the job, at least not anymore. And we have a lot of time to fill, so we joke around a little bit. Okay, so nobody take it personal. We love you all. All right. First and foremost, guys, listen to us on audio. Okay, iTunes, podcast, Spotify, whatever player, whatever you want. You'll find us there. Subscribe there. It's free. You'll like it when you're driving, going to the gym, doing whatever, or getting your coffee in the morning like the Chief. YouTube.com/Gettin Salty Experience is where we are right now, guys. Like, subscribe, and share. If we get out more, we get more great guests like the Chief here. Instagram, you find us at Salty Dog Inc., guys. So check us out there. Like, subscribe, and share, all that good stuff. GettinSaltyApparel.com, guys. That is how we got started as a t-shirt company, right? T-shirts, essentially. Hoodies, firefighter apparel, and accessories. Check all that out. Yo, guys, Super Chat was it was very humbling. Thank you so much to everyone in the Super Chat tonight. You guys really are our number one sponsors, our number one syndicators. You're the ones we do this for, and we feel the love. So we're going to keep doing it. So thank you, guys. That's why I didn't want to miss the next 4 shows. We gave you something while we're all away. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. We're dedicated to you as much as you are to us. Facebook, guys, Getting Salty Fans. That's our fans page. 40,000+ in there, 43,000 or more, or something crazy like that. Check it out. It's becoming a global fire wire where we talk all things about the show, but also talk all things about fire. Lots of great info getting passed. If you want to advertise with the show, guys, Gettin Salty Ads at gmail.com. I will give you my spiel. It's a good spiel. Shoot me an email there. Getting Salty Experience at gmail.com if you have questions for the show on our Q&A shows, and for our cocklofts and cocktails, or Cup of Joe and Fuego. We got to maybe do a Cup of Joe. Just, it's the same show essentially. One's a morning and one's an evening. But anyway,
even though we film it at noon. But
yeah, it's exactly. It's our news and views show. Guys, shoot us some stuff there. Helmet cam footage. It doesn't have to be yours. It could be anyone's. Fire photos. Make sure you give us all the background information. Your recipes at the house, your kitchen table, your tattoos, your mustache pics, all that cool stuff. All right, guys, and thank you all so very much. And that is all the news that's fit to print.
I want to say thank God for America, bro, because where could a boy from Brooklyn become chief of department and marry up so well? I want to thank God. God bless America.
God bless America. God bless you guys.
Yeah, Chief, thank you for coming on, Chief. What a great show. You are the GOAT, as Pete keeps playing it. I am just thankful that I actually got to work with you as a fireman, and I appreciate every minute I spent with you. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
You know what is funny too is the more we do these, you look into these guys' lives that you kind of know, but then you really don't know. You know what I mean? And even guys that you might have worked with for a long time, if they watch the show, they'd be like, "Holy mackerel! I didn't know he, this or this about your family, your father and your grandfather and all that stuff." That's all good stuff.
Good stuff.
So
beautiful.
We appreciate you coming on, Chief. It was our honor, believe me.
Maybe I'll run into you in Deer Park someday.
Yeah, look forward to it, Pete. Thank you.
All right, Chief. Yeah, I'll go cruising around.
If there's a fire on the block, Pete will be running the after way. So
I'll be running the other way.
And he'll
trip him up.
Yeah, trip him up. All right.
Oh my gosh.
All right, Chief. We'll see you in the after show. Hold on, and we will see you 2 weeks. So enjoy. We'll miss you. Right from here, like I said, as the Chief and I will be having the meat sweats. We'll miss you until we see you. Stay low and go.
All right, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you at the big one.
Cheers, everybody.